Good morning, everybody. Bright and early. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. We are here to bring you live coverage. There's this news conference coming up in 58 minutes and 44 seconds where Pete Hegseth and Joint Chiefs Chairman Dan Caine are going to talk about the degree of damage caused by the U.S. strikes on Iran, because that has been a controversial topic the last couple days among some. So they're going to do it, and we're going to watch it, and then we're going to talk about it. So that is coming up in 58 minutes. That has been a controversial topic. By the way, the supreme leader of Iran well, I don't know if he's still speaking, but I believe he just did speak on a recorded message on TV in Iran. So there was some question about where was he, because he'd been missing for a while. But he just spoke. So he does appear to be alive. We can say that. I assume from what he said. I haven't listened to the speech, but I assume what he said would identify him as being... I assume it's about things that he would only know about if he were alive. That's my assumption. I need to double check that, though, because I didn't listen to the whole speech. But I'll get you some, I'll try to do. What would be nice is if I could get you, like, from Iranian state TV, maybe I can get you like a transcription of his speech. Let me just check a couple things here. I might be able to get you the actual transcription of the speech. I mean, there's a video of it which is like 12 and a half minutes long. I can't play the video. I don't have the rights to the video. Even if I had the rights to the video, he's not speaking English. So that's not really going to help you. Oh, guys, I have, you know what I'll do? I think I can play you some of the video, even though it's not in English. I have the video. Hang on, I'm going to play you some of the Supreme Leader. Is this working? Let's see. Ready? We're gonna check this out. This was moments ago. If I can get it up on the screen here. All right, hold on. I gotta do this. I'll let you look at it. Again, it's just a recorded message. I don't. There's no urgency to get it to you live, but I just have to set it up here. Why is this thing being weird? Isfahan wants to play the Supreme Leader. There's some technical issue. It's being a little... Oh, I see. Was I not signed in? Let's try this again. Let's try this again, shall we? It said it's working. No, I got to do it again. Okay. I think it's going to work. Hey, thanks to our moderators who are here, bright and early. Janet B is here. Beth Mythical is here. Thank you so much. Over there on Twitch, Mark HNC is here. Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X. K. Lowry Body is over there on Facebook. Hey, thanks to Christy Claft and Shannon Davis Hughes for subscribing, and Martha Crawford too. I think Shannon might be hanging out, might be helping us mod at some point soon. Hang on a moment here. All right. Now, I think we're ready to show you a little of the supreme leader of Iran. This is a recorded message. I'm going to put it on the screen right now, if it's still playing. Look, it's the supreme leader. Hold on. I'm going to get it up on the screen for you. That's not what I wanted to do. Guys, I promise in a second you'll see it. In a second you'll see it. It's this thing. Everything's... I see. Now I got it. Sorry, guys. I didn't anticipate showing it, so... It's really almost there. It's almost there. Are you ready? It's the supreme leader. He's speaking. It's a recorded message. But look, there he is. He's speaking now. Let me turn the volume on. No, this is a recorded message, but it was just played moments ago.
ملت راضی و خوشنود کنه و کمک اون بزرگوار پشتیبان این ملت باشه. و السلام علیکم و رحمت الله و برکاته.
I don't know if they're going to... I can show you more of it. They were doing a refeed of it at AFP, and we just caught the last few seconds. I can get more of it if you want, but anyways. That's what it looks like. So, you know. I'm going to try to get... I'm going to try to get a... I can get some more of it, but also I'm going to try to get a summary of it. It just came out a few minutes ago. I'll tell you some of the things he said, because Fars state media in Iran has posted some of his quotes from his speech. And one thing he said is, the U.S. president said Iran must surrender. That was too big a word for the president of the United States. That will never happen. He said Americans failed to do anything important in attacking Iranian nuclear facilities. It turns out that the U.S. president needs to exaggerate. They exaggerate to cover up the truth. He also said that. He said the Israeli regime should have understood that attacking Iran would cause a heavy cost for it, and thank God this happened. He also said, I congratulate the Iranian nation. The Israeli regime almost collapsed, he claims, and was destroyed under the blows of the Islamic Republic. That's what he said that. We're going to get the full text shortly. He claimed that Iran's armed forces stopped the enemy's war machine by inflicting heavy losses. He claimed that Israel's multi-layered air defense systems, which had previously been described as impenetrable by world public opinion, became, he said, defenseless against Iran's powerful ballistic missiles and drones, and the residents of Israel had no safe place for themselves, not even in shelters throughout this war. I mean, Israel did shoot down, I believe, most of the missiles. Some got through, though. He said, we warn Israel and its supporters that we are closely monitoring their movements, and if they repeat any strategic error, we will send the aggressors to the black holes of history. So those are some quotes from what the supreme leader said. I think you get the idea. What I'll do is just, if you hang on a second here. No, the ceasefire seems to be holding right now. The ceasefire seems to be holding. But it's significant news that he released a video speech, because he had not been seen in days and days, I believe it was, in public. He'd not been seen or heard from. The New York Times had a story yesterday, I think it was yesterday, that said he had not been seen publicly or heard from in nearly a week. So, well, he's just been seen on a recorded message, which seems to be something recorded after the ceasefire. Our viewer SGG thinks he is dead and it's a propaganda video. I mean, I guess anything's possible, but it would seem to show he's alive. Azathoth Awakens says he was hibernating. Hey, we got this press conference in 46 minutes. 46 minutes. It's going to be interesting. Oh, look, hold on. I got a little story on it. Before we go to the press conference, because I think this is important, look at this. AP, Iran's supreme leader makes first public statement since ceasefire declared in Israel-Iran war. We're giving you some bonus coverage right now. This is bonus coverage. Iran Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei claimed victory over Israel and said his company had delivered a hand slap to America's face in his first public comments since the ceasefire was declared. This was minutes ago. He spoke in a video broadcast on Iranian state television, his first appearance since June 19th, looking and sounding more tired than he did only a week ago. He told viewers that the U.S. had not only intervened in the war because it felt it had only... He told viewers the U.S. had only intervened in the war because it felt if it did not intervene, Israel would be utterly destroyed. But he said the U.S. achieved no gains from the war. He had not been seen in public since taking shelter in a secret location after the outbreak of the war, June 13th. In his appearance on today, he sat in front of plain brown curtains to give his address similar to his June 19th message. Sneaky suspicion thinks he doesn't want peace. Let me show you, I think, oops, hold on. Do I have, here, look what I can show you now. Let's take a look just at a few more seconds of him speaking. This is from today. This is from a few moments ago. This is, via AFP, some of his speech that he just made on Iranian television. I'm going to show you. Bonus.
سرداران شهید، دانشمندان شهید که حقاً و انصافاً ارزشمند بودند برای جمهوری اسلامی و خدمت کردند و امروز در پیشگاه پروردگار پاداش خدمات برجسته خودشون رو دریافت میکنن انشاءالله. لازم میدونم به ملت بزرگ ایران تبریک عرض بکنم. چند تبریک به ملت عرض میکنم. یکی تبریک پیروزی بر رژیم جعلی صهیونیست. با اون همه هیاهو، با اون همه ادعا، رژیم صهیونی در
I just wanted to show you some of that, just so you could see. But again, this just as we were coming on the air, Iranian state TV was releasing this statement from the supreme leader. So I wanted to make sure you were aware of this breaking news. It's important news. Some of you think he looks defeated. Annexion Time thinks he looks tired. But certainly he is talking about the war in this speech as if it certainly seems he's still alive, because he's talking about the war in the past tense after the ceasefire. Catch Fraz thinks he looks old. Well, he is, hold on, he is, what is he, 86? Am I wrong about that? Got to check it out. He is 86, but AP did say that he looked and sounded more tired than he did only a week ago. All right, anyways, I want to get over, we got to transition back to the stated topic of the stream, the press conference, the news conference. But, I mean, this was obviously relevant to that, because Iran is the general topic. Now, what I wanted to talk about is what this news conference is going to be about. Hang on, I want to pull a couple things up here. See this here from AP. Trump grapples for upper hand in debate over damage caused by U.S. strikes on Iran. The last couple days, there's been this ongoing debate. President Trump initially said, I want to say minutes after the strikes happened, right after the strikes happened, he said that the facilities struck by the U.S. had been obliterated. There was a bunch of reporting by many, many outlets that said that there's a intelligence report from the Defense Department's intelligence agency that said that possibly Iran's nuclear program had only been set back by months. And President Trump has said that that's not true. He has spent a bunch of time attacking a number of news outlets that ran the story. So you can see here. Oh, let me show you the post. Speaking of this news conference, let me show you the post that President Trump made yesterday when he announced this news conference. I can show you that. Look, it's right here. Hang on, folks. Get this on the screen for you. Here it is. Secretary of Defense, War, Pete Hegseth, together with military representatives, will be holding a major news conference. This is today, because he posted this yesterday. Today at 8 a.m. EST at the Pentagon, in order to fight for the dignity of our great American pilots. These patriots were very upset. After 36 hours of dangerously flying through enemy territory, they landed. They knew the success was legendary. And then 2 days later, they started reading fake news by CNN and the failing New York Times. They felt terribly. Fortunately for them, and as usual, solely for the purpose of demeaning President Donald J. Trump, the fake news Times and CNN lied and totally misrepresented the facts, none of which they had because it was too soon. There were no facts out there yet. The news conference will prove interesting and irrefutable. Enjoy. Now, by the way, a couple things here should be noted. First of all, it was not just the CNN and New York Times that ran these stories. Many outlets reported on the existence of this Defense Intelligence Agency intelligence report. Fox News' Jennifer Griffin, for example, reported on the existence of it. We haven't seen the report. It is purportedly classified. So, also, just to be clear, I have read a bunch of the stories about this report. I have yet to see one story about this report that has anything negative to say about the pilots. None of the reports I have read have said that the pilots did anything wrong, that they did anything other than exactly fulfilled their mission. So the stories are not about what the pilots did. They're about whether the damage caused by the what ended up being the damage caused, specifically about Fordow, because Fordow is the most important nuclear site. It's buried under a mountain, and it was buried to be resistant to being bombed, and it was built to be resistant to being bombed, and that is the Fordow. The damage at Fordow is the focus of this, reportedly the focus of this Defense Intelligence Agency report. But again, I'm not aware of a single story about this existence of this report that says anything bad about the pilots. But just to be clear, if you haven't read the stories, we did a stream 2 days ago where I believe on the air we read through 3 different stories, all talking about the existence of this Defense Intelligence Agency report. And if you can go back and watch it. None of them had anything negative to say about the pilots. But you can see he says it's going to be interesting and irrefutable. And that's what we're going to be watching today. So this press conference is going to be about the level of damage. I guess it's going to be about the level of damage done at Fordow, and maybe at the other facilities too. The U.S. attacked 3 different facilities. Okay. Gary Bain says it's called implicit. I don't see how saying that saying that there's a Defense Intelligence Agency report that exists that says that possibly the Fordow was not obliterated, and that even though it was damaged, it's possible that it's possible that the nuclear program could only set back by months. I don't see anything in that specifically that implies that the pilots failed. Because remember, the reason that the U.S. was brought in to do this is that this facility was constructed in such a way, in such a protected manner, under a mountain, that Israel didn't even have any weaponry that could do serious damage to it when dropped from the sky. Only the U.S. had a bomb big enough, which had never been used in combat, and planes that could carry such a load. So if the DIA came out and said, well, we looked, now I haven't seen the report, but if they came out and said, well, we looked at it and it appears to us that, it's not obliterated, there's nothing to me in that implies that the pilots messed up. There's no judgment on the pilots. In fact, I mean, if they don't say the pilots messed up, which I'm not aware they do, there were already questions floating around about whether these bombs could penetrate this structure. I mean, it hasn't been tried, obviously. These bombs had never been used in combat. This structure had never been bombed. So it could just turn out that if you drop bombs on this structure, a certain amount of bombs on this structure in a certain place, maybe you don't know exactly what's going to happen. So I don't see in that any implicit, even implied criticism of the pilots. There's no negative judgment of the pilots. So I again, feel free to disagree with me. I don't see where the criticism of the pilots is coming in. And I haven't seen a single story that came out from anybody who claimed that the pilots somehow didn't do their job perfectly. Anyways, it's aside. I don't want to get hung up on the pilots. The key issue that is being debated is not the pilots, but the key issue that's being debated is how much damage was caused by the U.S. attacks on these nuclear facilities. How much, and a related question, but a different question, is how much has Iran's nuclear program gotten set back by not just the U.S. strikes, but the U.S. and Israeli attacks combined. One article I was reading this morning made a good point, which is that, and I've seen other articles mention this, is that something important that we don't know, at least I don't know, and the public doesn't know, but the articles suggest might not be known by Israel or the U.S., is whether Iran has secret facilities, alternate facilities that they were keeping in case something happened to their main facilities. So given that certainly the key facilities that are known in Iran have been significantly damaged, whether we say obliterated or damaged, they certainly have been significantly damaged. Do they have other facilities that they can go use that the Israel and the U.S. did not know about? Also, it's not totally clear, as far as I'm aware, what happened to the enriched uranium, the highly enriched uranium they had. That could make a difference. So these two things, whether they have alternate facilities that they can just use now that have not been damaged, whether they have, whether the enriched uranium, they managed to hide it somewhere and they still have easy access to it, that could make a big difference in the amount of time they would need if they decided to start working on a nuclear bomb, either again or if they continue, or just they had been doing work that could be used toward a bomb before, but whether or not they were actually working towards one actively is a whole other question. But if they decided after this, yes, we need a bomb as soon as possible, how long would it take? Well, whether they have that enriched uranium still, and whether they have alternate facilities, that's going to impact that timeline. So I don't even know if that's something that Israel and the U.S. know right now. So keep that in mind. Okay, so we're going to take some comments from you guys. We have 28 minutes and 27 seconds coming up to the press conference. We will check out this press conference. We're going to have live coverage of the press conference for you. We will be bringing you that live. Speaking of which, I need to keep an eye on this. I need to keep an eye on this. Oh, and in the last day, a couple of U.S. officials have come out and given additional assessments. Trump administration officials have come out and given additional assessments of what happened. So, for example, CIA says intelligence indicates Iran's nuclear program severely damaged. Let me read some comments from you guys, though, first, before getting into this. T. Greeny thinks they're strategically picking an early 8 a.m. time for this solely for the fact that it will eat up the network news stories all day. Do you know what's interesting? Starting about, I want to say, 2 months ago, there started to be a bunch of White House press briefings at 8 a.m. And now there have been 2 Pentagon press briefings. This will be the second one in the last couple weeks at 8 a.m. And it could just be because it's possible that like Pete Hegseth and Carolyn Levitt prefer to do it at 8 a.m., which is totally fine. It's early for me. I would prefer they were a bit later, but it is interesting. This is not a very important issue at all, but I've been wondering about this. Why all of a sudden all of these not even 9 a.m., why all of a sudden these 8 a.m. press conferences in the administration? Because it wasn't like that for the first couple months of the administration. Now it seems like a big thing, the 8 a.m. thing. So it's just something I'm wondering. Austin Rees thinks they want the news cycle. The thing is, you could argue that by having it early, fewer people would watch it. I understand what you're saying, that, well, if they have it early, people can talk about it all day. But the other thing is, if you had this like a couple hours, I mean, 8 a.m. on the East Coast is 5 a.m. on the West Coast. So I don't know, but arguably more people would watch it live if it were later. I don't know. I just find it interesting. It's interesting to me. I'm not judging it. Whenever they want to have it, it's fine. But anyways, if any of them are listening to me, if they want to make it a little later, that's fine with me. Kurt says, I wonder about that too, 8 a.m. I mean, the previous Pentagon one, the previous one with Hegsteth was 8 a.m. But again, and they've done a couple recently of White House press briefings at 8 a.m. with the press secretary. Duchess says, but everyone can see it with their breakfast? Well, the very early risers, maybe the roosters can watch it on the West Coast with their breakfast. Stevie G says, are they going to delay the press conference to review Iran's video? No, because I don't think... the Iran video with the Supreme Leader, which just came out, seemed like a pretty boilerplate, what you thought he would say, with a lot of... I don't think this is a dispute. There's a lot of inaccuracies. It felt like basically, a lot of inaccuracies and exaggerations in the Supreme Leader's speech about how well Iran did militarily in the conflict. I mean, the fact that he said that basically the air defense in Israel kept nobody safe and didn't really work at all, and basic to that I forget the exact wording, but I mentioned it earlier. But I mean, just as an example. So I don't think there's anything that he said in this speech. It's not like he in his speech showed interior photographs from the Fordow complex that are verifiable where you see a certain level of damage. So I don't think anything he said is going to impact the damage assessments they talk about in this press conference. Right archivist thinks that the assessment will keep changing. Could be. I mean, I don't know. I would assume over time, Israel and the U.S. will get more information about what damage has been caused. So certainly could be changing. Hey, let me show you this. You can see this is from yesterday. Well, this is a quick story. CIA Director John Ratcliffe yesterday said a body of credible intelligence indicated that Iran's nuclear program was severely damaged by recent U.S. strikes and it would take years to be rebuilt. He said, I'll actually show you what he said. But again, a couple of officials from the Trump administration came out with statements about this yesterday. He said, "This is my statement confirming CIA intelligence which contradicts illegally sourced public reporting." He's saying that the people who went to various news outlets and told them about the existence of this Defense Intelligence Agency intelligence assessment did it illegally. That's what I think he's saying. Regarding the destruction of the key Iranian nuclear facilities. So yesterday, John Ratcliffe, the Trump administration CIA director, said CIA can confirm that a body of credible evidence intelligence indicates Iran's nuclear program has been severely damaged by the recent targeted strikes. This includes new intelligence from historically reliable and accurate source method that several key Iranian nuclear facilities were destroyed and would have to be rebuilt over the course of years. CIA continues to collect additional reliably sourced information to keep appropriate decision makers and oversight bodies fully informed. When possible, we will also provide updates and information to the American public, given the national importance of this matter and every attempt to provide transparency. Oh, hold on a moment. You may hear some noise outside. I didn't know this was happening, but it sounds like to me there might be something being repaired outside the studio. I mean, outside the building. So I'm hearing noise. You will not hear that noise during the press conference, by the way. I can turn that off. But I do apologize that you're hearing it right now. I just heard it for the first time. It's so early. It's possible it's something else. It's not in here. Hold on a second here. All right. Wow, that's loud. That must be some repair going on. Sorry, I literally just heard it right now. Anyways, it literally sounds like it's right outside. You will not be hearing that during the press conference. During the press conference, I will cut the mic, and as I usually do, and you won't be hearing that noise that you're hearing right now. Wow, gee whiz. My gosh. It's not bad on your end? Okay, well, hopefully it's not too bad on your end. I'm hearing it. Okay. I think they're jackhammering. Hey, let me show you what, First of all, we're waiting for this press briefing. In less than 20 minutes, the news conference is going to start, and I'm going to show it to you live, and we're going to talk about it after, and it's going to be on the damage, the assessment of damage caused to Iran's nuclear program by the U.S. bombing of it, which has been a controversial issue in the U.S. the last couple days. Okay, you guys are saying that you can't really hear the noise. Okay, that's great. So I'll keep going here. It sounds like you guys are not hearing it as loud as I'm hearing it. That's good. So I can deal with it fine. Okay, Connor563 says, do you think they will show videos of the bombing in the press conference? That's a very good question. I was wondering if they might show like some new satellite photos of Fordow, maybe, to try to back up their assessment. It's a very good question. Or maybe they'll show videos of the bombing. Maybe they will. That's a good question. Very good question. We'll see. Let me thank our moderators for a second. I want to thank Beth Mythical, our moderator, Roberts Mayqueen, Janet B. Let's see here. They are all moderating over there on YouTube. And our Twitch moderators, Big Ball of Yarn, Mark HNC, Surly Dev, and Tariag, thank you. Also, thank you to Kay Lowry Body, who's moderating over there on Facebook. Thanks so much, Kay. And also Linda Bell, Larry, and Misha on X. And I owe a couple, thank you, moderators. I owe a couple thank yous to members of our audience. Thank you, Accedi, for your support for the channel. Accedi thinks the site will be considered fully destroyed until that assessment no longer serves their purpose. Wow, that's what our viewer Accedi thinks. Gabriel Morrow, thank you. Gabriel recommends Bose noise-canceling headphones. Well, again, I'm fine right now. It sounds like you guys are not hearing too much noise, maybe because of the microphone's only focused on me. So I can deal with it right now. But it's I didn't know this was happening out here. Again, it's early, so somehow after this started, the people showed up outside to repair something on the street, it sounds like. Thank you, Mitchell Pilot. Mitchell Pilot says that report was a preliminary report with low confidence assessment. Yeah, no, that is true. We talked about that in the previous stream. That it was reported that initial DIA report that came out reportedly said it was a low confidence preliminary assessment. That is true. Mitchell thinks the mainstream media is about to get embarrassed. Now, just to be clear, the mainstream media's stories were about the existence of this report. The mainstream media was not saying, we've looked at the evidence and we've assessed the amount of damage. What they said is, this report exists and this is what it says. So now you might think that certain people in the media drew certain conclusions from it, but the stories I was reading you on the air a couple days ago, if I remember right, basically just said, here's this report, here's what it says. Now, we haven't seen the report, so just to be clear, one story said, the report said, well, the damage could have delayed the program from either a few months to up to almost a year or something. Also, something else that we just don't know about is, and it wasn't really reported, we don't have the report. So let me just say this again. My guess is that the report doesn't get into this, but we don't know if Iran has secret other facilities that they can use. So like, for example, Fordow is an uranium enrichment site where they enrich uranium up to a higher percentage of enrichment. And that's an important step in the bomb-making process. If they happen to have some secret other enrichment site that they can go use instead of Fordow, well, it becomes less important. It's important, but significant damage to Fordow might set them back less because they have this other facility they can use. I don't even know. My guess is that if you read the DIA report, it's just focused more on Fordow. So it's trying to give you an assessment of how far Fordow has been set back, but the month's assessment, whatever the assessment was, has to make some assumptions about things like, do they have alternate facilities? And my guess is if you read the report, it doesn't. My guess is that they're not. The report is not drawing conclusions about if they have other facilities. From my understanding, from the reporting I've seen, it's talked about Fordow. Let's see. Scott Beck Thank you. Scott thinks the early presser may be to get out ahead of any bad news they are expecting to come out today. It's an interesting thought. I mean, my thought is President Trump announced this press conference yesterday. He said it's going to, basically he said it's going to show that we're right about this assessment. So to me, it felt like, and I read you President Trump's statement from yesterday, it felt more like a thing where it was being done to get across the administration's point of view rather than preempt any new information that's coming out. Although I don't know, because I believe there are supposed to be, I will say this, there are supposed to be classified briefings for members of Congress today. Members of Congress were supposed to get a classified briefing about the damage on Tuesday, but those briefings got canceled on Tuesday, and now they're going to happen today. So it is possible that this briefing was scheduled early to take place before the classified briefings that Congress was getting. I don't know. It's an interesting thought. By the way, we have like 13 minutes until this stops. I got to keep an eye on it. Where is that thing here? Hold on. Trump officials to give first classified briefing to Congress on Iran strikes today. See, there's a headline from AP. Thanks to PZ Papa Zulu. Thanks to Disaster Reese. Thanks so much. Thanks to John Burton. John says if they have satellite images of trucks being loaded up at a facility, like at Fordow, shouldn't they know where the trucks went and what was loaded, if anything? I don't know if, for example, at Fordow, if they have, we know there are satellites from the images from the days before of trucks being there. Do they know what was put in the trucks, if anything? Can they see that? If the trucks are taken to some facility that's indoor, can they see inside there and know what happens to the stuff after it goes and parks in some indoor facility? I don't know. Thank you so much, John Burton. Thank you, Cub. Thank you, Don't Tell Gus. I appreciate it. Thank you, The Ringa X. Turned Off, thank you. Turned Off thinks Iran and Israel are taking advantage of Trump's forced ceasefire to regroup and rearm. Well, I think Israel, Turned Off, I'm guessing you would agree that Israel and Iran had to agree to the ceasefire themselves, right? You would agree with that, right, Turned Off? But thank you, Turned Off. Thank you, Jeannie Sparks and CJ Lars, $13.99, and CIA Contact. Okay. Now, I might have some early video from the briefing room. If you give me a second, I may be getting that shortly. Let's see here. Maybe in like 2 minutes, I might be getting it for you. I think I'm going to have to put my headphones on eventually with the racket outside. Well, I'm not really hearing it right now, so. But I think maybe in like a minute or so, there's a chance I'll get some early video from the Pentagon briefing room. We'll definitely have live coverage of the briefing for you. It's in 10 minutes. Oh, I can show you. Whoa, 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 whoa. I can show you this. I can already show you this. This is kind of fun. Look at this. Look at this, guys. Hold on. Hang on. Oh my gosh. It says live event. Live event. Coming up next. Live event. All right. I haven't even checked the news. I hope I'm not missing breaking news because we've been talking about this. You know, after the briefing, we didn't cover it. After the briefing, we might take a little look at what President Trump said at the NATO summit yesterday, because he was really not happy with some channels, specifically CNN, and had some choice words for them. So we might take a peek at that after. Thank you to Golden Tarkus for subscribing on Twitch, and Nick Knack for subscribing on Twitch. Nick Knack doubts that the ceasefire is going to hold. Thanks, Notorious Rob on Twitch. Okay. Now, Susan Birch says, I don't believe they moved the enriched uranium. It isn't moved easily. That's what Susan Birch said. Are they, excuse me, Aaron Quake says, are they going to show us photos? Good question. Will there be new visual evidence presented in this press conference? Don't know. The news conference will be both Pete Hegseth and Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Dan Caine, by the way. Just so you know. Give me one moment here. Hang on one moment. Hang on one moment here. By the way, a couple outlets are reporting this. I'm looking at the Washington Post report in front of me. The Washington Post, I think Axios reported this too. Oh, hold on a second. Oh, no, I don't have the video yet. The Washington Post says the White House plans to limit classified intelligence sharing with Congress after leaks to the press of an early assessment undermined President Trump's claim that U.S. airstrikes, quote, obliterated Iranian nuclear facilities. A senior Trump administration official told the Post, setting the stage for a contentious classified briefing before senators Thursday. Amid a political battle over what the intelligence shows about the damage to Iran's nuclear program, the White House is expected to send 4 of its top national security officials to brief lawmakers today: Defense Secretary Hegsteth, Secretary of State Rubio, CIA Director Ratcliffe, and General Dan Caine, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Also, the Washington Post says the Trump administration's tour to convince lawmakers and Americans of the mission's success will include a Thursday morning stop at the Pentagon, where Hegsteth and President Trump said military representatives. Now, we know that the Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman is going to be there, will hold a major news conference, President Trump said. So, we will be hearing the administration side of the story from the Pentagon coming up in about 5 minutes. 5 minutes, guys. Wow. Pete Hegseth will be there. Joint Chiefs Chairman Dan Caine will be there. Are we going to see new evidence? Are they going to show us new stuff? I don't know. We'll have to just see. And I have not gotten any advance video, by the way. So we're going with this right now. And if you missed it, the Supreme Leader Khamenei of Iran made a public speech today. He did a video address, a recorded video address. It was his first public appearance in a number of days. So he does appear to be alive. Andres Pro says this seems like a show. He's talking about, I think, the press conference coming up. Let me go back. President Trump said at this press conference, he said Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, together with military representatives, will be holding a major news conference, President Trump said yesterday, describing this. He said the news conference is in order to fight for the dignity of our great American pilots. He said the pilots knew the success was legendary, and then 2 days later, he claims they started reading fake news by CNN and the failing New York Times. He said this news conference will prove both interesting and irrefutable. That means you can't show that it's wrong. Hey, Mitchell Pilot, that's so kind of you. Mitchell Pilot is talking about the reporting that the alleged Defense Intelligence Agency assessment was, quote, was low confidence and preliminary. Oh, by the way, all right, so I will not have, I don't have, this is all, I don't have early video of the room, put it that way. I thought I might get early video of the room. That I don't have for you. But we have the video of the briefing. I just didn't know if I'd be able to, oh, I might, do I have early video of the room? Hold on a second. Hold on a moment. Hold on a moment. No, I can't use that. Okay. So we will have the video. I don't have, sometimes for some events, by the way, thank you again, Mitchell Pilot. That's very generous of you. I really appreciate that. Thank you. For some events, I'll get video of the actual room where they're having the briefing early. I don't have that today. But you're literally looking at the Pentagon live feed. So this is the live feed from the Pentagon. So as soon as it starts, we will have it. It's supposed to start in 1 minute. I have to remember to turn the clock off when it starts. No, I cannot use, I know that, like, you know, other, like, News Channel X might be showing an early view. I cannot take whatever I want for myself. I only can use the feeds I have the rights to. So there might be, I know it might exist. I know it exists, but I don't have the rights to that feed. Sometimes I do, but not today. Yeah, again, if you didn't hear before, about a half hour ago, I just discovered while on the air that there's some repair going on the street outside. I will be shutting off my mic during the briefing, so you will not hear that noise. I apologize you're hearing it. Had no idea I was going to hear it today. I just started hearing it during the stream. Hey, thanks to Jordan Price, our new member. Again, this news conference is going to be about the amount of damage caused to the Iranian nuclear program by the U.S. strikes a few days ago, which has been, the amount of damage has been a controversial topic the last few days, because there's reporting that says there is a Defense Intelligence Agency intelligence report that suggests that the Fordow complex was not obliterated, as President Trump claimed, and possibly the nuclear program of Iran has only been set back by months. That's something that President Trump disputes and says is wrong. So we're going to, all right. So anyways, let me get rid of the clock here, because the clock now says 0 is counting up. We don't want that to happen. So any moment now, we are going to hear from Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Caine. And you will not be hearing jackhammering sounds during the press briefing, I guarantee you. And I greatly apologize for that, but I can't do anything about it. Most of you say you're not really hearing it anyway, so, which is good. But I will shut my mic off. Our viewer Ajas says, I hope they bring hard evidence, not just words. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. It's a full room of reporters there. Hey, thanks, MJ323. That's so kind of you. Thank you. Thanks for your support. And we will be taking your comments about the briefing after the briefing. I want to hear what you think about it after the briefing. So stick around after and we'll take some comments from you guys. We'll talk about it after. Michael One Rare Zebra thinks they will claim they had eyes on the ground. Be Humble thinks it'll be just propaganda. T. Brookie says they will not share too much. It's a very classified mission. Wow. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Bright and early. They should call it the Bright and Early press conference. All right, is anybody from the West Coast in the audience at 5:01 a.m. on the West Coast? I did not get much sleep. I'm going to have to take a nap today. Sophia Dempsey's on is on the West Coast. A couple of the viewers are on the West Coast, bright and early. Or maybe they haven't gone to sleep yet. Matt Machine says it's 2 in Hawaii. Anyways, you're watching the live feed from the Pentagon. We're still just waiting. We're literally live. Let me just make sure I'm unmuted here. So as soon as it starts, we will have it. As soon as it starts, it'll just pop onto the screen. Let's see here. I didn't even check the news. Well, nobody's been yelling at you. I hope there's not been some breaking news I missed because I didn't even check it for a while. So let me check that for a second. It's about to start. It is about to start. I'm on the East Coast. I'm in Boston, Massachusetts. Our viewer JSM-HYE12 thinks it will be about the leaker and how they were wrong. I believe that the stories about this cited multiple people. So in theory, there are multiple people who leaked it. Spitfire, I'll have to look that up. All right, here we go.
Well, good morning, everybody. Just arrived last night back from NATO, 2 days apart from my battle buddy, so it's good to see him this morning. Good to see you, Mr. Chairman.
You too, sir.
Where there was a historic outcome. I want to start with that real quick. I think there's so much news, so many things happening that oftentimes big, momentous moments get missed. What President Trump accomplished in NATO yesterday was game-changing and historic. A shift in burden sharing to European responsibility in NATO that most would have said was impossible at the beginning of his term. But he said NATO needs to pay up. They started in the first term, and here in his second term, we've accelerated that. 32 NATO countries committed to spending 5% of their GDP on defense, on actually investing in the NATO alliance. So I hope with all the ink spilled, all of your outlets find the time to properly recognize this historic change in continental security that other presidents tried to do, other presidents talked about. President Trump accomplished it. It's a huge deal. You see, we're here this morning because in hunting for scandals all the time, in trying to find wedges and spin stories, this press corps and the press corps miss historic moments. You miss historic moments like 5% at NATO, which when you hear, I was in the closed door briefing, I wish there could have been cameras in there. When you heard the prime ministers and presidents of other countries, to a man and to a woman, looking at President Trump and saying, this never could have happened, never would have happened. It seemed impossible 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 8 years ago. But here we are because of your leadership. If you ask them the question, I bet they'd say the same thing. But searching for scandals, you miss historic moments, like recruiting at the Pentagon. Historic levels in the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy. Yeah, maybe there'll be a little mention here or there, but because it was under President Trump's leadership, because Americans are responding to him as commander-in-chief, the press corps doesn't want to write about it. Or bring us to the topic of the moment, the highly successful strikes in Iran. Let me read the bottom line here. President Trump directed the most complex and secretive military operation in history, and it was a resounding success, resulting in a ceasefire agreement and the end of the 12-day war. There's been a lot of discussion about what happened and what didn't happen. Step back for a second. Because of decisive military action, President Trump created the conditions to end the war, decimating, choose your word, obliterating, destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities. I want to read some of the assessments that have been provided, because whether it's fake news, CNN, MSNBC, or the New York Times, there's been fawning coverage of a preliminary assessment. I've had a chance to read it. Every outlet has breathlessly reported on a preliminary assessment from DIA. I'm looking at it right now. Again, it was preliminary, a day and a half after the actual strike, when it admits itself in writing that it requires weeks to accumulate the necessary data to make such an assessment. It's preliminary. It points out that it's not been coordinated with the intelligence community at all. There's low confidence in this particular report. It says in the report there are gaps in the information. It says in the report multiple linchpin assumptions are what this assessment, a linchpin assumption, you know what that is? That means your entire premise is predicated on a linchpin. If you're wrong, everything else is wrong. And yet, and still, this report acknowledges it's likely severe damage. Again, this is preliminary, but leaked because someone had an agenda to try to muddy the waters and make it look like this historic strike wasn't successful. I'm going to get to the chairman in a moment because he's going to lay out the particulars for you based on his professional military experience. But here's what other folks are saying. The DIA that put that report out says this is a preliminary low confidence report and will continue to be refined as additional intelligence becomes available. How about the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission? The devastating U.S. strikes on Fordow destroyed the site's critical infrastructure and rendered the enrichment facility inoperable. Have any of these quotes made their way into the New York Times or the Washington Post? MSNBC? CNN? Any of these quotes? How about this one? This is a new one from the UN, the United Nations. No friend of the United States, or certainly Israel often. Here's the head of the UN Atomic Energy Agency this morning, Rafael Grossi. U.S. and Israeli strikes caused enormous damage to Iran's nuclear sites. Don't take my word for it. How about the IDF's chief of staff? I can say here that the assessment is that we significantly damaged the nuclear program, setting it back by years. I repeat, years. The Iranian foreign minister, the spokesman, our nuclear installations have been badly damaged, that's for sure. I'm sure that's an understatement. John Radcliffe, the director of the CIA, putting out a statement just last night. CIA can confirm that a body of credible intelligence indicates Iran's nuclear program has been severely damaged by recent targeted strikes. This includes new intelligence from a historically reliable, very different than preliminary assessment with low confidence. He's saying historically reliable and accurate source and method that several key Iranian nuclear facilities were destroyed and would have to be rebuilt over the course of years. CIA continues to collect additional reliably sourced information to keep appropriate decision makers fully informed. How about DNI Tulsi Gabbard yesterday? She writes, and I quote, "New intelligence confirms what POTUS has stated numerous times. Iran's nuclear facilities have been destroyed." Institute for Science and International Security President David Albright, overall, Israel and U.S. attacks have effectively destroyed Iran's centrifuge enrichment program. Time and time again, I can go down the list. Those that understand, those that see, those that do proper assessments recognize that what the United States military did was historic. And again, before I pass it to the chairman, because you, and I mean specifically you, the press, specifically you, the press corps, because you cheer against Trump so hard, it's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump. because you want him not to be successful so bad, you have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes. You have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented them isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it. Spin it in every way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind over whether or not our brave pilots were successful. How many stories have been written about how hard it is to, I don't know, fly a plane for 36 hours? Has MSNBC done that story? Has Fox? Have we done the story how hard that is? Have we done it 2 or 3 times so that American people understand? How about how difficult it is to shoot a drone from an F-15 or 16 or F-22 or F-35? Or what it's like to man a Patriot battery? Or how hard it is to refuel midair? Giving the American people an understanding of how complex and sophisticated this mission really was. There are so many aspects of what our brave men and women did that because of the hatred of this press corps are undermined because your people are trying to leak and spin that it wasn't successful. It's irresponsible. And folks in this room are privy to that information because of the proximity here in the Pentagon. It's an important responsibility. And time again, classified information is leaked or peddled for political purposes to try to make the president look bad. And what's really happening is you're undermining the success of incredible B-2 pilots and incredible F-35 pilots and incredible refuelers and incredible air defenders who accomplished their mission, set back a nuclear program in ways that other presidents would have dreamed. How about we celebrate that? How about we talk about how special America is, that only we have these capabilities? I think it's too much to ask, unfortunately, for the fake news. So we're used to that. But we also have an opportunity to stand at the podium and read the truth of what's really happening. And the reality is you want to call it destroyed, you want to call it defeated, you want to call it obliterated, choose your word. This was an historically successful attack, and we should celebrate it as Americans. And it gives us a chance to have peace, chance to have a deal, and an opportunity to prevent a nuclear Iran, which is something President Trump talked about for 20 years, and no other presidents had the courage to actually do. So with that, I want to hand it over to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. They've done technical analysis on this, not just on the strike, but also on our Patriot defenders on Al-Udeid. And Mr. Chairman, I'll hand it over to you.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and good morning, and all of you. Thank you for being here. As a follow-up to my comments on Sunday's press conference, I wanted to give you a few updates this morning on something I'm honored to do as a chairman, and that's a chance to get to talk about some of our service members and the incredible things that they do on behalf of our nation. And I apologize ahead of time for the length and the detail. Today I'm going to brief you on a couple things. First, I'm going to talk about our air defenders at Al-Udeid in Qatar and their actions on Monday. Then I'm going to walk you through a little bit about the academics that went into the attack against Fordow, the massive ordnance penetrator weapon, and we're going to show a video that highlights the effects that weapon has. Of course, nobody was down inside the target, so we don't have video from the target. First, on Monday, as the president has stated, on Monday morning we began to receive indications and warnings that Iran intended to attack U.S. bases in the region. That morning, building on the work that CENTCOM Commander Eric Kurilla had done, and on the orders of the president, at Al-Udeid Air Base in Qatar and around the region, we assumed a minimum force posture. Most folks had moved off the base to extend the security perimeter out away from what we assessed might be a target zone, except for a very few Army soldiers at Al-Udeid. At that point, only 2 Patriot batteries remained on base, roughly 44 American soldiers responsible for defending the entire base, to include CENTCOM's forward headquarters in the Middle East, an entire air base, and all the U.S. forces there. The oldest soldier was a 28-year-old captain. The youngest was a 21-year-old private who'd been in the military for less than 2 years. So let's put ourselves out there for a second. Imagine you're that young first lieutenant, you're 25 or 26 years old, and you've been assigned as the tactical director inside the command and control element. You, at that age, are the sole person responsible to defend this base. Listening next to you is your early warning operator whose job is to notify you of imminent attack. There's 5 people inside a vehicle and 5 people outside of a vehicle around these, a total of, as I said, 44. By the way, you've sat in the Middle East for years, deployed over and over again, extended multiple times, always being prepared, but unsure of when that particular day will come that you must execute your mission and not fail at doing it. In this case, these Patriot crews were deployed from Korea and Japan as part of our U.S. forces there to ensure that we had the most capable missiles in the CENTCOM area of responsibility. As the day continues, you start to hear more and more chatter in the information space about a pending attack. And as the sun starts to set in the west, you get orders from your higher headquarters to make sure that your missile batteries are pointed to the north. There are just a few other teammates. It's hot, you're getting nervous, and you expect an attack. Outside of those Patriot vehicles, your hot crew, which is 1 NCO and 4 additional soldiers, turns a key and relinquishes control of those missiles to that young lieutenant inside the vehicle, and you wait. You know that you're going to have approximately 2 minutes, 120 seconds to either succeed or fail. And then at approximately 12:30 p.m. on Monday, that's 7:30 p.m. in Qatar, as the sun sets in the west, Iran attacks. As the targets were detected, round after round of Patriot missiles are ejected from their canisters by an initial launch charge. Then the main solid rocket motor ignites. You can feel this in your body if you've ever been around a Patriot taking a shot. And round after round goes out and guides against those missiles coming inbound. We believe that this is the largest single Patriot engagement in U.S. military history. And we were joined in this engagement by the Qatari Patriot crews. I'm not going to tell you how many rounds were shot, but it was a bunch because of classified purposes. And we're aware that there's reports of something getting through. What we do know is there was a lot of metal flying around. Between attacking missiles being hit by Patriots, boosters from attacking missiles being hit by Patriots, the Patriots themselves flying around, and the debris from those Patriots hitting the ground, there was a lot of metal flying around. And yet our U.S. air defenders had only seconds to make complex decisions with strategic impact. These awesome humans, along with their Qatari brothers and sisters in arms, stood between a salvo of Iranian missiles and the safety of Al-Udeid. They are the unsung heroes of the 21st century United States Army. And I know a lot of you have seen the videos online and the excitement as those Patriots departed their launchers and went up and guided. This really demonstrates the combat capability and capacity of our Army air defenders. Simply stated, they absolutely crushed it. If you'd flip this over, thanks. Let me next move to a walkthrough of the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator weapon and share a little bit about the planners who did this and their work on the weapon. First, let me set the stage for you. There's an organization in the U.S. called the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, DTRA. DTRA does a lot of things for our nation, but DTRA is the world's leading expert on deeply buried underground targets. In 2009, a Defense Threat Reduction Agency officer was brought into a vault at an undisclosed location and briefed on something going on in Iran. For security purposes, I'm not going to share his name. He was shown some photos and some highly classified intelligence of what looked like a major construction project in the mountains of Iran. He was tasked to study this facility, work with the intelligence community to understand it, and he was soon joined by an additional teammate. For more than 15 years, this officer and his teammate lived and breathed this single target, Fordow, a critical element of Iran's covert nuclear weapons program. He studied the geology. He watched the Iranians dig it out. He watched the construction, the weather, the discard material, the geology, the construction materials, where the materials came from. He looked at the vent shaft, the exhaust shaft, the electrical systems, the environmental control systems, every nook, every crater, every piece of equipment going in and every piece of equipment going out. They literally dreamed about this target at night when they slept. They thought about it driving back and forth to work, and they knew from the very first days what this was for. You do not build a multi-layered underground bunker complex with centrifuges and other equipment in a mountain for any peaceful purpose. They weren't able to discuss this with their family, their wives, their kids, their friends, but they just kept grinding it out. And along the way, they realized we did not have a weapon that could adequately strike and kill this target. So they began a journey to work with industry and other tacticians to develop the GBU-57. They tested it over and over again, tried different options, tried more after that. They accomplished hundreds of test shots and dropped many full-scale weapons against extremely realistic targets for a single purpose: kill this target at the time and place of our nation's choosing. And then, on a day in June of 2025, more than 15 years after they started their life's work, the phone rang and the President of the United States ordered the B-2 force that you've supported to go strike and kill this target. Yesterday, I had the incredible honor and privilege of spending time with these two Defense Threat Reduction Agency officers who've given so much. One of them said, quote, "I can't even get my head around this. My heart is so filled with the pride of being a part of this team. I am so honored to be a part of this." To you both, thank you, and thank you to your families. Operation Midnight Hammer was the culmination of those 15 years of incredible work. The air crews, the tanker crews, the weapons crews that built the weapons, the load crews that loaded it. Before I run through this video today, I want to talk a little bit about weaponeering and what goes into an attack. Weaponeering is the science of evaluating a target. I mentioned all of those factors before that these two DTRA officers had thought about. Ultimately, weaponeering is determining the right weapon and fuse combination to achieve the desired effects and maximum destruction against a target. In the case of Fordow, the DTRA team understood with a high degree of confidence the elements of the target required to kill its functions, and the weapons were designed, planned, and delivered to ensure that they achieve the effects in the mission space. By the way, in the beginning of its development, we had so many PhDs working on the MOP program, doing modeling and simulation, that we were quietly and in a secret way the biggest users of supercomputer hours within the United States of America. So let me talk about the graphic a little bit. And the GBU-57, which all of you I know is a 30,000 pound weapon dropped only by the B-2. It's comprised of steel, explosive, and a fuse, programmed bespokely, each weapon to achieve a particular effect inside the target. Each weapon had a unique desired impact angle, arrival, final heading, and a fuse setting. The fuse is effectively what tells the bomb when to function. A longer delay in a fuse, the deeper the weapon will penetrate and drive into the target. So on Fordow, in June of 2008, you can see these three holes. Depicted here is the main exhaust shaft with two additional ventilation shafts on either side. The United States decided to strike these two ventilation shafts, seen here on the main graphic, as the primary point of entry into the mission space. In the days preceding the attack against Fordow, the Iranians attempted to cover the shafts with concrete to try to prevent an attack. I won't share the specific dimensions of the concrete cap, but you should know that we know what the dimensions of those concrete caps were. The planners had to account for this. They accounted for everything. The cap was forcibly removed by the first weapon, and the main shaft was uncovered. Weapons 2, 3, 4, 5 were tasked to enter the main shaft, move down into the complex at greater than 1,000 feet per second, and explode in the mission space. Weapon number 6 was designed on each side, so there were 6 on each side. Weapons number 6 was designed as a flex weapon to allow us to cover if one of the preceding jets or one of the preceding weapons did not work. The video I'm about to show you is a culmination of over 15 years of development and testing. As I said, hundreds of test shots on various models. This is one weapon. So if you take a view of this as 5 additionals, you'll get a sense of what this looks like. Hopefully you can see it and there's not too much reflection. Tom runs our videos out there. We'll run it at full speed so you can see it and then go back through it. Go ahead, Tom. Keep it going for a minute. You'll see inside the mission space. Unlike a normal surface bomb, you won't see an impact crater because they're designed to deeply bury and then function. I know there's been a lot of questions about that. All 6 weapons at each vent at Fordow went exactly where they were intended to go. A bomb has 3 effects that causes damage: blast, fragmentation, and overpressure. In this case, the primary kill mechanism in the mission space was a mix of overpressure and blast ripping through the open tunnels and destroying critical hardware. The majority of the damage we assessed based on our extensive modeling was a blast layer combined with the impulse extending from the shock. Imagine what this looks like 6 times over. A point that I want to make here: the Joint Force does not do BDA. By design, we don't grade our own homework. The intelligence community does. But here's what we know following the attacks and the strikes on Fordow. First, that the weapons were built, tested, and loaded properly. 2, the weapons were released on speed and on parameters. 3, the weapons all guided to their intended targets and to their intended aim points. 4, the weapons functioned as designed, meaning they exploded. And we know this through other means, intelligence means that we have, that were visibly, we were visibly able to see them. And we know that the trailing jets saw the first weapons function, and the pilots stated, quote, "This was the brightest explosion that I've ever seen. It literally looked like daylight." Let me now turn to the bomber crews themselves, give you a few details about them. The crews that attacked Fordow were from the active duty Air Force and the Missouri Air National Guard. The crews ranked from captain to colonel, and most were graduates of the Air Force Weapons School headquartered at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. I will state for the record that there is no beach volleyball or football at the Air Force Weapons School. There were male and female aviators on this mission. And a crew member told me when I talked to them on video the other day that this felt like the Super Bowl, the thousands of scientists, airmen, and maintainers all coming together. One last story about people. When the crews went to work on Friday, they kissed their loved ones goodbye, not knowing when or if they'd be home. Late on Saturday night, their families became aware of what was happening. And on Sunday, when those jets returned from Whiteman, their families were there. Flags flying and tears flowing. I have chills literally talking about this. The jets rejoined into a formation of 4 airplanes followed by a formation of 3 and came up overhead Whiteman proudly in the traffic pattern, pitching out to land right over the base and landing to the incredible cheers of their families who sacrifice and serve right alongside their family members. Like I said, there were a lot of flags and a lot of tears. One commander told me this is a moment in the lives of our families that they will never forget. That, my friends, is what America's Joint Force does. We think, we develop, we train, we rehearse, we test, we evaluate every single day. And when the call comes to deliver, we do so. I could not be more proud standing up here today of our Joint Force. I'm filled with gratitude that I get to tell their story. And as we stand here right now, our forces remain on a high state of readiness in the region, prepared to defend themselves. And one last thing, our adversaries around the world should know that there are other DTRA team members out there studying targets for the same amount of time, and will continue to do so. Thank you very much. I apologize for the length. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just thank you, by the way, for that extensive work, the lay down. I mean, even, do you have that laser pointer? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, squaring me away as always. I mean, even in just the public reporting, if you see the post-strike shaft of the 3 holes, the vast majority, and fairly so, the vast majority of speculation has been, those are the 3 strike points. When in actuality, what you realize is these are the vents, these are the caps, the first munition took the cap off, and the other 5 went down the center hole, which if you're planning the target, you would want it to be the direct one going to the bottom. These are the types of things that go into the planning for a strike that the Pentagon would not expect the press corps, the American people, to initially understand. This information out is helpful, but it's also why we ask for a beat, for a moment, for a day or 2, the opportunity to tell that story, because as the chairman said, these men and women that did this mission, they just want to do their job. They're not expecting their story to be told. They're not expecting the glory. They are grateful for the flags and the hugs of family. That's why they do the job. But they also know they were a part of something historic. We know how historic it was. The chairman does. I know. Our staffs know. And so that's why we are, and the president of the United States knows. And that's why it's almost personal when we see the way in which leaks are used to try to disparage the outcome or muddy the waters about the impact of what happened without being responsible with information and allowing the professionals to assess and provide that information just like the chairman did. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that information. Yes, and we welcome a few additional questions. Yes, sir.
General, on Sunday you said final battle damage will take some time. And you also said, I think BDA is still pending, and it would be way too early for me to comment on what may or may not still be there at the nuclear facility. So that was just over 3 days ago. So what has changed? Would you use the term obliterated as well?
Sure, like I said, we don't do BDA. I'll refer that to the intelligence community. And
when you're talking with them, I mean, what changed in the past 3 days and make you so, you know?
Sir, I think I said.
I mean, I think I explained what changed. There was a great deal of irresponsible reporting based on leaks, preliminary information in low confidence. Again, when someone leaks something, they do it with an agenda. And when you leak a portion of an intelligence assessment, but just a little portion that makes it seem like maybe the strike wasn't effective, then you start a news cycle, whether it's the Washington Post or Fox News or CNN or MSNBC, you start a news cycle that starts to call into question the efficacy. No, that's why. So you bring the chairman here, who's not involved in politics. He didn't do politics. That's my lane to understand and translate and talk about those types of things. So I can use the word obliterated. He could use defeat, destroyed, assess, all of those things. But ultimately, we're here to clarify what these weapons are capable of, which anyone with, 2 2 eyes, some ears, and a brain can recognize that kind of firepower with that specificity at that location and others is going to have a devastating effect. So we all recognize there will be days and weeks ahead. That's why yesterday I said, if you want to know what's going on at Fordow, you better go there and get a big shovel, because no one's under there right now. No one's under there able to assess, and everyone's using reflections of what they see. And that's why the Israelis, the Iranians, the IAEA, the UN, to a man and to a woman who recognize the capability of this weapon system are acknowledging how destructive it's been. So that's what's changed.
Just 3 or 4 days later. What
See, this is a point. This is how difficult it is to actually manage. You just watched a video of what this weapon is capable of. That's where we find our confidence, is in the skill of men and women and the capability of the systems they employed, and the recognition so far in the reflections that it was a highly successful mission.
Sure, I think you could, I'd say go out, the IC should be able to help you answer that question. They look at a variety, as the Secretary has alluded to, we look at a variety of things. I don't do that, they do. All different sources of intel, which I'd refer you to them to get clarity on the end state.
So again, I go back to the IC, whether it's Director Radcliffe or ODNI Gabbard. I read the statements at the beginning. They're the ones aggregating the intelligence, and they're saying nuclear facilities were destroyed and would have to be rebuilt over a number of years. Facilities were destroyed. What do we got right here?
Sir, you cited a body of credible intelligence to suggest the damage at Fordow and other places. What is that referring to, and when can we see it?
I was reading from the CIA director's statement, which came out last night. CIA, again, they do the BDA, they do the assessment. CIA can confirm that a body of credible intelligence indicates, it also goes on to say, new intelligence from historically reliable and accurate sources and methods. Now, you can imagine, the CIA director is going to be very careful about how he articulates things of that sensitivity. Classified, secret, top secret, compartmentalized. He's going to know things that you're not going to know, that the press isn't going to know, and he's reflecting that the sources he's seeing are highly credible. They've given credible intelligence, and that's what he's basing it on.
Don't you think we need to see that?
Good clearance, sir?
Eventually,
Okay.
the American public wants
Yes,
to see
sir.
it.
Yes. Yeah, you.
I wanted to ask briefly just.
No, not you. Checkered shirt.
Oh, so Mike Glenn with the Washington Times.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, sir. Anybody who's ever read a Battalion S2 report after a fight knows that it's usually, the initial report is usually wrong, sometimes grossly so. Has what happened in this incident caused y'all to sort of rethink the intelligence process, if the process itself doesn't require any more adjustment?
Well, I can tell you what the chairman told me in the Situation Room and reminded us all, which is alongside what you just said, sir, is that the first reports are almost always wrong. They're almost always incomplete, right? Anything, whether it's a squad level operation or a strategic level operation, the initial reflections you get are coming at you at a high rate of speed from a lot of different sources. So your job is to step back and assess them. And that's why we're urging caution about premising entire stories on biased leaks to biased publications trying to make something look bad. How about we take a beat, recognize first the success of our warriors, hold them up, tell their stories, celebrate that, wave an American flag, be proud of what we accomplished. And in the meantime, I can assure you, the chairman and his staff, the intelligence community, our staff and others are doing all the assessments necessary to make sure that mission was indeed successful. Yes, right there.
Sir, thank you, Mr. Secretary. Iran has recognized that their nuclear program was indeed severely damaged, but they also said that the U.S. strikes only strengthened their ability and their determination to complete their nuclear program. How do you respond to that, sir? Is that a provocation from Iran?
Well, I would say Iran's going to have to say a lot of things right now in order to bolster their image, especially internally. You know, in the media, there's a lot of things they'll say for domestic consumption. But we're watching very closely what they do. Again, that's the intel community. Our job as the chairman, the chairman laid it out so beautifully. Our job is to be prepared. And how proud are you? How proud am I? I didn't know the full story of those men and women 15 years ago who've been pointing at that target. That makes me proud to be an American. That's an awesome story. I hope we can tell more aspects of that in an unclassified way in the future. That's a great thing to know. Our job is to be prepared when the commander-in-chief calls. based on those assessments. So, of course, our IC, the Intelligence Committee, will keep watching what Iran does and pay attention to that. But the president has created the contours, the opportunity for a deal, for peace, in something that the world said was intractable, that wasn't possible. And we got that peace, that ceasefire, that option, because of strength, because of his willingness to use American military might that no one else on the planet can do, with the kind of planners and operators that the chairman just laid out. Yes, sir. Right there. Yep.
Me, sir? Just a quick question. There's public imagery available saying that highly enriched uranium was moved out of Fordow before the strikes. Is that accurate? Have you seen that? And Mr. Chairman, a question for you. Have you been pressured to change your assessment or give a more rosy intelligence assessment to us by any political factors, whether it's the president or the secretary? And if you were, would you do that?
Yeah, well, that one's easy. No. No, I have not, and no, I would not. My job as the chairman is to offer a range of options to the president and the National Command Authority to deliver the risks associated with each of those, and then take the orders of the National Command Authority and go execute them. I've never been pressured by the president or the secretary to do anything other than tell them exactly what I'm thinking, and that's exactly what I've done.
And the highly enriched uranium?
There's nothing that I've seen that suggests that we didn't hit exactly what we wanted to hit in those locations.
That's not the question, though. It's about highly enriched uranium. Do you have certainty that all the highly enriched uranium was inside the Fordow mountain, or some of it, because there were satellite photos that showed more than a dozen trucks there 2 days in advance? Are you certain none of that highly enriched uranium was moved?
Of course, we're watching every single aspect, but Jennifer, you've been about the worst, the one who misrepresents the most intentionally. What the president says. I'm familiar.
I was about the ventilation shafts on Saturday night, and in fact, I was the first to describe the B-2 bombers, the refueling, the entire mission with great accuracy. So I take issue with that.
I appreciate you acknowledging that this was the first the most successful mission based on operational security that this department has done since you've been here, and I appreciate that. So we're looking at all aspects of intelligence and making sure we have a sense of what was where.
Why not acknowledge the female pilots that also participated in this mission? The early messages that you sent out only congratulated the boys.
So when I say something like our boys and bombers, see, this is the kind of thing the press does, right? Of course, the chairman mentioned a female bomber pilot. That's fantastic. She's fantastic. She's a hero. I want more female bomber pilots. I hope the men and women of our country sign up to do such brave and audacious things. But when you spin it as, because I say our boys and bombers as a common phrase, I'll keep saying things like that, whether they're men or women. I'm very proud of that female pilot, just like I'm very proud of those male pilots. And I don't care if it's a male or a female in that cockpit, and the American people don't care. But it's the obsession with race and gender in this department that's changed priorities. And we don't do that anymore. We don't play your little games. Yes, right there.
For certain that the uranium was removed from the facility before the B-2 struck.
So I'm not aware of any intelligence that I've reviewed that says things were not where they were supposed to be, moved or otherwise. Yes.
Kelly Meyer with News Nation, and just off the top, want to say we're grateful for the service of these pilots and everybody that serves. I wanted to ask you, the CIA statement said, when possible, they will provide updates and information to the public for transparency, and I believe that's what we're looking for here. Do you commit to share the Defense Intelligence Agency report when it is ready, so the American people can understand more about the intelligence assessment?
Well, actually, the report that was discussed, this preliminary report, was what's called a restrike report. So it comes to us to give us an assessment whether a target would need to be restruck, right? That's the reason why. So it's based on internal feedback loop that we're supposed to have access to. Unfortunately, someone took advantage of that. But whatever is supposed to be made public will be, but whatever has to stay sensitive.
Sir, can I just jump in? You know, one of the things that I'm trying to do through this journey that we're on together, of course, transparency, but also the requirement to really protect these capabilities. I guess the time's up. So there's a balance in there, right? We do need to preserve options should the nation and the joint force be tasked to go do something again. So I'm confident we'll find the middle ground, but there are some things that if asked, I'd want to not release related to.
So we're going to leave it right there. I want to thank the heroism of our men and women in the military. What they accomplished is truly historic, setting back the Iranian nuclear program untold number of years. It was a devastating attack. We appreciate you covering it. Thank you very much,
Yes, sir.
Chairman. Thank you.
Talk a little bit more about the role, sir.
Okay, so that was the press briefing. Oh, hold on. That was the press briefing. It got a little testy for some of it. What did you guys think? I don't know that press briefing for people who were looking for more evidence that would conclusively settle the matter of the damage amount in Iran. I don't know that settled it, the issue, but it was certainly interesting. So let me take some comments from you guys. Oh, now obviously it's already happened, so we don't need the clock up there anymore. Let me change that. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. And let me just change this. Hold on. One of our viewers said, a lot of comments coming in. Let me read some of the comments here. Chuck Mosca says, evidence would convince all of us they have provided none. So Chuck said he did not feel they provided evidence about what happened in that press conference. Let's see here. One of our viewers, hold on. Beryl Kubler thought it was not informative at all, whereas Kimi Abba's servant thought it was very informative. Criminal says they are admitting they don't know what damage is done, but on paper it should be a lot. Jersey, Texas says, big question, uranium moved. Yeah, the question about whether enriched uranium had been moved was asked several times. The third time it was asked, if I remember this right, I believe Secretary Hegsteth said something like, I'm not aware of any intelligence that something was moved and wasn't where it was supposed to be. It wasn't totally clear. So I think it left some room for interpretation. So I don't think we got a totally clear. I mean, you could read him as saying that he didn't have evidence something was moved, but hold on a second. It wasn't. We didn't. There was not a. I don't think a totally clear answer about their assessment of the enriched uranium at this point. Also, the question that was being discussed was the enriched uranium at Fordow, but there may be enriched uranium or not at other sites besides Fordow, so that wasn't even really brought up. We're taking your comments about the press conference. Let me take some more from you guys. Faust for us said the information we were given is no different than what was disclosed before. Yeah, I don't know that there was any big new information. So first of all, just to go over it, there were two speakers at the press conference, the Defense Secretary and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Caine. General Caine literally said, General Caine said this, he said, we don't do BDA. We don't do bomb damage assessment. So he really was not weighing in, General Caine, on the specific assessment of this mission. Now he did talk about the type of weapons that were used. He did say that the weapons all hit their target, that there was a very bright explosion. So, it sounded like there was information given that suggested that there were not targeting problems and the bombs went where they were supposed to go. So we certainly heard that, which certainly if you didn't know that, then that would be a reason to think maybe there's less damage. But so we did hear that. But he specifically said we don't do bomb damage assessments. Now, the defense secretary, he offered a number of quotes from different sources that talked about the level of damage. I believe those quotes, I don't know about all of them. My guess is they were all out there in the world before because, for example, he quoted the CIA director and Tulsi Gabbard, but those quotes were made yesterday originally. But he also did say things like, at one point, Secretary Hegsteth said something like, if you really want to know what is going on at Fordow or what happened at Fordow, you need to go out there and grab a shovel. I don't know if you remember that comment. So, and he also said something like, we're continuing to work through the intelligence. So there were elements of things he said that seemed to support a certain view of the damage, but at times, like the shovel comment, seems to suggest they're still assessing the damage level. So you got a bit of both there. I mean, I leave it to you to kind of go through all his comments and reach a conclusion about what his position is. But a number of our viewers were wondering before the press conference, will we see any photos or videos of the site, of the mission, and new that we have not seen before? And I don't believe we saw that. We saw a video, I believe, of a test of that type of weapon. But my understanding is that video we saw was not a video from this mission. So, because a number of our viewers had asked about that, and I'm not aware that any of that was presented. Okay, so let me read some more comments from you guys. Becky Love Jesus says, we can't know everything. If you don't trust what they're telling you, keep watching CNN. The Sugaro says they need recon and eyes on. That's the best intel they'll get. Eric Savdi says they are still assessing. JT Nursing says, I think I need to see evidence that shows the bombs were not effective. So JT is, I guess, assuming they were effective. Now, by the way, just to be clear, this Defense Intelligence Agency report, which many outlets have reported on the existence of, does not say, reportedly does not say that there was no damage or anything like that. The question is, what is the level of damage there, and how much has it set back the nuclear program? I should pull up the one of the articles just to show you an example of what it says. So, for example, the AP article about it from 2 days ago, yesterday, that said, early U.S. intelligence reports suggest U.S. strikes only set back Iran's nuclear program by months. Does it say in here, does it give any, let's see here. This is the AP article. There were plenty of articles in different outlets. My point was, I don't believe from what I've read about this report, it doesn't say there was no damage. But, so, you know, it did say there was damage. The question is exactly how much damage and what was damaged. Right, so here, this is it, right? The assessment, according to AP sources, the underground the entrance collapsed and infrastructure was damaged, but the underground infrastructure was not destroyed, the assessment found. So my point in showing you this is that I haven't seen any story about this intelligence report that says the intelligence report says, oh, like there was no damage or the bombs didn't work. What it supposedly says is there was damage, significant damage, but there's that question of how much damage did it do? And was everything just completely destroyed, or were some things maybe salvageable in some sort of sense? So that's the question I think that's being debated. Oops, we want to go to, hang on, I want to go back to this. All right, hold on. I'm reading some more comments from you guys. Hey, let me say a couple thank yous, by the way. I owe a couple thank yous. To Fedora for the gift memberships, Christos Pavlatos for the gift membership, Ed Weeby for the gift membership, also PZ Papazulu. PZ Papazulu says if DJT cured cancer, the Democrats would say he is putting doctors out of business. Thank you to Nathan Freeman. Oh, Nathan's comment reminded me of something. An interesting piece of information. I think maybe the most interesting piece of information that we heard is they did say in the press conference that before the strikes, Iran put concrete covers. They basically poured more concrete on the ventilation shafts, which was interesting because we heard in the press conference that all of these missiles, all of these bombs were dropped on the ventilation shafts, the two main ventilation shafts. What was said, I believe, by Secretary Hegsteth, one of them said that the Iranians, in the days before the attack, had tried to protect the ventilation shafts by putting concrete covers on them, which is interesting. Now, when I heard, first of all, that was just very interesting to hear. But another question I had was, so according to the press conference, the first bomb destroyed the ventilation shaft, and then the next bombs 2 through 5 just went down the ventilation shaft. So I do wonder, though, if that is the ventilation shafts having extra covers on them something that was talked about in the planning for this. It was just interesting to hear. Let's see here. Nathan Freeman thinks the dump trucks were there to fill the vents with cement and not to move uranium or centrifuges. Thank you, Nathan, for your support. Thanks, Tasmanot, is for your support. Tasmanot says, peace is the result. It's best not to leak that it is not destroyed. Thanks, Truth and Honor. Thanks, John Bernasconi. Thanks, Kelly K. Thanks, Jeremy Freeman. Jeremy Freeman thinks if people were shown proof, they would still complain. Thank you, Spin City DJs. John Bernasconi. Stevie Augie, 1992. M. Lynn Lehman. M. Lynn Lehman thinks clearly there is a difference between obliterated and damaged and whatever else the team has used. Thank you, PZ Papazulu, CK for the gift memberships, Texas Bully Mom. Sorry, I didn't. Some people supported the channel during the press conference, so I wanted to thank them. PC6969, thanks for the gift memberships. Philip Anthony, Jordan Price, IMC McGinnis, Turned Off, Eamon O'Leary, MJ323. Thanks for your support. And Crazy Like Fox News, our viewer over on Twitch, and Lockies on Twitch, and Notorious Rob, thanks, and Evil Kuja on Twitch. Should I play the exchange? Do you guys want me to? I think the most contentious part of that briefing was when Pete Hegseth called on Fox News' Jennifer Griffin. I could play that moment again if you would like to see it. I don't know. The chat might not want to see it. I don't know. That certainly seemed to me like the most contentious part. A bunch of people are saying yes, so I'll replay that. It's only like a minute long or so. Let's show you the Jennifer Griffin from Fox exchange with Secretary Hegsteth. A bunch of people say they want to see it again. All right, here it is. Here it is, coming up right near. Here it is. This is a replay. This is not live. Oops. Hold on. All right, so there's that. I want to have it say replay of press conference. I certainly thought it was a one of our viewers mentioned there is a Israeli government spokesperson is giving a briefing, David Menser, which this is a pretty regular thing they do. I can check it out after. Maybe we'll check it out after. My experience with those briefings is that they're not intended to announce major developments. So my guess is I'm going to assume we're not missing any major developments by not showing that briefing. Perhaps we'll look at it after. But I have watched a number of those before. It's not the Prime Minister. It is one of the spokespeople. So, but thanks for letting me know about that. Let's look right now at the part of this briefing where Pete Hegseth spoke with Jennifer Griffin of Fox News, and I will put up here replay of briefing. Hang on a moment here. Okay. Here it is.
Wanted to hit in those locations.
That's not the question, though. It's about highly enriched uranium. Do you have certainty that all the highly enriched uranium was inside the Fordow mountain, or some of it, because there were satellite photos that showed more than a dozen trucks there 2 days in advance? Are you certain none of that highly enriched uranium was moved?
Of course, we're watching every single aspect, but Jennifer, you've been about the worst, the one who misrepresents the most intentionally. What the president says. I'm familiar.
Report about the ventilation shafts on Saturday night, and in fact, I was the first to describe the B-2 bombers, the refueling, the entire mission with great accuracy. So I take issue with that.
I appreciate you acknowledging that this was the first the most successful mission based on operational security that this department has done since you've been here, and I appreciate that. So we're looking at all aspects of intelligence and making sure we have a sense of what was where.
Why not acknowledge?
Okay, so that was an interesting moment. Yeah, at one point, as one of our viewers just said it, as Irish Sweetness has said, it sounded like at one point she said, you have issues, but we didn't hear the rest of what she was going to say. So I don't want to put words in her mouth. That was Fox News' Jennifer Griffin. But that was certainly an interesting moment from that briefing. Okay, let me take some more comments from you guys. Hey, thanks, by the way, to Spin City DJs. Don't you think it would be reasonable to think if they were covering the vent shafts, they have something to hide or protect? Right, so it's a fair question. Why did Iran, according to the briefing, in the days before the bombing, put extra concrete on the vent shafts? Well, I mean, my thought is just they felt that they were vulnerable. Like, my thought is like that, you know, this action by the U.S. was talked about and in the news for days before it happened. So certainly Iran was aware that this site might be attacked. That was very obvious. For weeks, it might be attacked anyway. So they might feel that that's the most vulnerable place, right? Or they might feel that that's what the U.S. will think is the most vulnerable place. If for either of those reasons, they might want to put that extra concrete on there, you know. So they know where that place is vulnerable to bombs, and they probably think they know what they probably think the U.S. knows. So that's how, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. That's how I understood that, is that they felt it was a vulnerability and or Probably both. They felt it was the place the U.S. was going to go after, so they just figured, let's put more concrete on there. It's very interesting. As I said, that might be the most interesting new information from that briefing. X-Free says vent shafts were vulnerable on the Death Star. Thank you again to Spin City DJs. Let's see here. By the way, if you want to see any of the briefing again, you can just rewind the stream. The whole the briefing is on the stream, so you're welcome to watch it again. Our viewer, Shapongle, says, why would they want their base bombed? Of course they try to protect it. Peter Pettigrew thinks capping it makes the pressure worse inside. Well, I guess the first bomb that went down destroyed the extra concrete cap they had put on the ventilation shafts, from what the press conference said. So those shafts, the caps would not be on when the further bombs went down. Our viewer, Famine Studios, also mentioned the Death Star. Said they covered the vent shaft because someone finally saw what happened to the Death Star. Now, another thing I was going to ask if you wanted to see, let me read a few more comments here. Kevin Groves, our viewer, thinks that's why they most likely moved the uranium. They are not stupid. It's the core of their program. They had weeks' notice if they knew it's simple. So Kevin believes that they moved their uranium from whatever it is. Just to be clear, in the press conference, people were asking if any uranium had been moved from Fordow, but it's not clear. I don't believe it's clear that the enriched uranium was all at Fordow to begin with. There could have been enriched uranium in other places. Let's see here. Marion Sells says, I am grateful to all the men and women who completed this mission. Ben Allridge, our viewer, says, time will bring data. Susan Priest Buchner says, he didn't need to try to insult her. I think she's talking about Jennifer Griffin. Let me shout out our moderators real quick, too. Our moderators are awesome. I really appreciate them being here. We have BZ and Roberts Mayqueen and Janet B. all moderating. And also on Facebook, Kay Lowry Body has been over there moderating. Thank you so much, Kay. Really appreciate it. For our special morning coverage. On Twitch, Big Ball of Yarn, David Green, I Got That Fire, Mark and HNC, and Certainly Dev. And Linda Belk, Larry, Misha over on X. Jamie Rowland thought Hegsteth was hostile to her. Brian McDonald says the Trump haters at CNN, MSNBC, Washington Post, New York Times, Fox, etc. will never be happy. Return to Nature says, how does the covering the vent shafts in concrete protect them? Doesn't that ruin them? I mean, they're not going to be venting anything after that. So I don't know what they did exactly. It sounds like maybe they made some kind of concrete cap that they put over the vent shafts that in theory could be moved off of it after. They didn't say they filled in the entire vent with concrete. I have a question for you. My question is this. So yesterday, look, this briefing was held in the aftermath of this controversy of the last 2 days which happened because many media outlets reported that there existed a Defense Intelligence Agency intelligence report. That is the intelligence arm of the Defense Department. In a preliminary Defense Intelligence Agency report, which said that that the Iranian nuclear program may have only been reduced by months. Might have been set back only by months. And the report reportedly specifically focused on Fordow plant. But the basic difference is that it seemed to give a different picture of the damage than the president had given initially. So for the last couple of days, there's been this debate going on about this report and what it says, and the media. And President Trump wasn't happy with these stories. He's posted about them a number of times. But yesterday he spoke, we were not covering this, but he spoke at the, he did an initial appearance at the NATO before his press conference, where he had some very harsh words for the press. And he spoke about the Iran situation and the U.S. Attacks on Iran a bunch. So if you want, I could show you that. It's not like an hour long. I think it's like 15 or 20 minutes long. It's interesting, but I don't want to play it if you guys don't want to see it. But we didn't cover it, and I have the video from it. So if people want to see it, I can play it for you. I thought it was quite interesting, and it aired at like really early in the morning. So you would have, if U.S. time, you would have had to have been up very early to see it. So, you know what? I'm going to play it, or at least some of it right now. And if you don't want to watch it, that's fine. But, I think you'll find it. I think if you're interested in this topic, you'll find it interesting. So this was yesterday, and it was in the Netherlands, at The Hague, at the NATO summit, right? That's where it was. If it was the NATO summit. Yeah, the NATO summit. So I'm going to put it on, and I have the video right here. And you'll hear what President Trump had to say about these topics and the media. And he, I think, was with Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, if I'm pronouncing his name like Mark Rutte. Okay, so let's check that out. And I'm going to play it for you right now. Hang on a moment. Hang on a moment. I did want to show this because I think it's very interesting. All right, so this was yesterday. Can I pull up? Here it is. All right, here we go. Oops, I have to I have it here. I just have to pull it up here. I just have to get it pulled up here. Where is it here? There. Okay, we're getting it going right now. So you'll see it starts right at the start, but the first question, I cut off the first question. So I think he's talking on the first question about getting people to pay, getting the countries to pay more for their NATO dues, to contribute more to NATO. All right, here it is. No, that's not it. It's going to be right here. There it is. Okay, good. This is President Trump, and this is yesterday, and it's via, oh no, I'm sorry. Hold on. This is via AFP. Oh no, this is via Reuters. This was the Reuters video. It's the Reuters video from yesterday. That's what it is. Okay. All right, so here's what President Trump had to say yesterday at the NATO summit. And he talks a lot about the Iran issue. You'll see. So let's check it out.
We're with them all the way. I mean, if you take a look at the numbers, we're with them. And they have very big things to announce today. I don't know if you've taken the vote or you're going to take the vote, but I've been asking them to go up to 5% for a number of years, and they're going up to 5%. That's a big, from 2%. And a lot of people didn't even pay the 2%. So I think that's going to be very big news. NATO is going to become very strong with us, and I appreciate doing it. Perhaps you want to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me first, before I go to the spending, I just want to recognize your decisive action on Iran.
Thank you.
You are a man of strength, but you're also a man of peace. And the fact that you are now also successful in getting this ceasefire done between Israel and Iran, I really want to commend you for that.
Thank you.
And I think this is important for the whole world. Then on spending, it's absolutely true. I want to state here, without President Trump, this would not have happened. In 3 stages. When you became president in 2020.
Let me just forward through. We don't need to hear Mark Rutte speak, because I'm playing this so you guys can hear what President Trump said yesterday. So I'm going to get to President Trump speaking again. Most of this is President Trump speaking. So I'll just forward through that, and so you can hear President Trump speak. And he'll get to the Iran stuff soon.
We will be equalized very shortly, and that's the way it has to be. It's going to be a lot of money too, a lot of defense.
Trillions extra.
Yeah, and we have a great relationship, and we've had a great relationship from the beginning. Highly respected man, and yeah, we appreciate you being here too, everybody. We really do. We have a tremendous group of people on my left and a tremendous group of people on my right. They might be even better than my people. I know. Let's have a fight. Let's figure it out. Anyway, but we appreciate it, and we've had a tremendous relationship, Mark and I. And we've really worked on this subject for a long time. When Biden was here, it just died like everything else died. And now it's you're going to take, I guess, a vote today, right?
Absolutely. Today we will decide unanimously to do this. That's my absolute conviction.
So we can't talk about it until the vote's taken, because sometimes, you know, strange things happen with votes. But I think you're going to.
I'm not too worried.
I think you're going to do very well. Everyone's very happy about it. Go ahead. Yes.
Mr. President, how is the Iran-Israel ceasefire going, in your opinion?
I think very good. I think very good. Israel came back yesterday. I was so proud of them. Because they came back, you know, they went out because they felt there was a violation, and technically they were right, but it just wouldn't have worked out very well. And they brought the planes back. They had gone on to another journey because there was a little bit of a violation, and I said, you got to get them back. And they came back, and it was a great thing, and it's going very well.
Mr. President, what are your sort of responses to the foreign minister saying he still wants to enrich nuclear?
Hello, Katie. She's so great, this one. Any question she asks, I'll answer. Well, maybe I better not say that. What was your question?
What is your response to the Iranian foreign minister continuing to say Iran will enrich uranium and pursue nuclear weapons?
Well, I don't know if they've said that, but I'll tell you, the last thing they want to do is enrich anything right now. They want to recover. And we won't let that happen, number one. Militarily, we won't. I think we'll end up having somewhat of a relationship with Iran. I see it. Look, I've had a relationship over the last 4 days. They agreed to the ceasefire. And it was a very equal agreement. They both said, that's enough. They both said it. But no, they won't do that. The last thing they want to do, Katie, is enrich. They're not looking to, can you imagine after all of that, they're going to say, oh, let's go and do a bomb. You know, there could be a day in the future, and then somebody else taking our place will be saying, don't do it. And maybe they won't do it as well, I don't know. But they're not going to have a bomb, and they're not going to enrich. And we believe all of the stuff is down there. We don't think they had nearly the time, because to get that out is a very difficult thing. It's not like moving a package or taking this carpet up and moving it. It's very difficult. It's very dangerous to do. We believe it's all down there. We had a tremendous victory, a tremendous hit. And because of that, I don't think they would have been down there because they knew we were coming. When they know we're coming, they're not going to be down to that, 30 stories underground. So, no, I think it was just a tremendous victory for everybody, including Iran. Look, they've got a country, and they've got oil, and they're very smart people, and they can come back. Israel got hit very hard, especially the last couple of days. Israel was hit really hard. Those ballistic missiles, boy, they took out a lot of buildings. And they've been great. Bibi Netanyahu should be very proud of himself. And they've really been great. But they're not going to be building bombs for a long time.
Mr. President, what's your reaction to the intelligence reports saying that the Iranian nuclear sites were only partially devastated, not entirely?
Yeah, well, they said it was actually, the report said it could have been they don't know. I mean, they did a report. I could have Pete talk to it because his department did the report. They really don't know. I think Israel's going to be telling us very soon because Bibi is going to have people involved in that whole situation. We hear it was obliteration. It was a virtual obliteration. When you take a look at the ground above, don't forget, the flame is all underground. But everything above, if you look at the before and the after picture, everything above is burned black. The trees, everything. There's one building, but that's a building that sunk substantially into the granite, so that the fire goes right over it. I believe it was total obliteration. I believe they didn't have a chance to get anything out because we acted fast. If it would have taken 2 weeks, maybe, but it's very hard to remove that kind of material. Very hard and very dangerous for them to remove it. Plus, they knew we were coming, and if they know we're coming, they're not going to be down there. There aren't too many people that are going to be down there. Pete, do you have something to say about that?
Well, Mr. President, when you talk to the people who built the bombs, understand what those bombs can do, and deliver those bombs, they landed precisely where they were supposed to. So it was a flawless mission.
Flawless.
Right down where we knew they needed to enter. And given the 30,000 pounds of explosives and capability of those munitions, it was devastation underneath Fordow. And the amount of munitions, 6 per location. Any assessment that tells you it was something otherwise is speculating with other motives. And we know that because when you actually look at the report, by the way, it was a top secret report, it was preliminary, it was low confidence. All right, so this is you make assessments based on what you know.
It said it could be very devastating, very serious.
Moderate to severe, and we believe far more likely severe and obliterated. So this is a political motive here.
Is there a leak investigation?
Of course, we're doing a leak investigation with the FBI right now because this information is for internal purposes, battle damage assessments, and CNN and others are trying to spin it to make the president look bad when this was an overwhelming success.
We had a tremendous success, and this is the New York Times. I call it the failing New York Times. It's going to hell. And CNN, which, as you know, very few people are watching. And you would think they'd do the opposite. You would think they'd want to say, this was an unbelievable success. And the thing that hurts me is it's really demeaning to the pilots and the people that put that whole thing together, the generals. That was a perfect operation. And when you look at the holes, and this was done from 52,000 feet, there was no moon, there was no light, and those 3 holes are right together. And also, and nobody talks about this, we shot 30 Tomahawks from submarines, in particular one submarine, but that was 400 miles away. And every one of those Tomahawks hit within a foot of where they were supposed to hit. Took out a lot of buildings that Israel wasn't able to get. We took them out with Tomahawks. We don't even talk about that. This was a devastating attack, and it knocked them for a loop. And, if it didn't, they wouldn't have settled. If they had won, if we didn't take it out, they wouldn't have settled. Somebody mentioned that to me last night. If that thing wasn't devastated, they would have never settled. Marco, do you have something to say?
No, first of all, on the stuff about the intelligence, this is what a leaker is telling you the intelligence says. That's the game these people play. They read it, and then they go out and characterize it the way they want it characterized, and they're leakers. This is the game they play. So that's number one. Number two, here's a fact. The conversion facility, which you can't do a nuclear weapon without a conversion facility. We can't even find where it is, where it used to be on the map. You can't even find where it used to be.
We're with them all the way. I mean, if you take a look at the numbers, we're with them.
Hold on.
Big.
I have part two. I'm going to put part 2 on right now. Here we go.
because the whole thing is just blackened out. It's gone.
It's wiped out.
It's wiped out. Then we dropped 12 of the strongest bombs on the planet right down the hole in 2 places. Everything underneath that mountain is in bad shape. And I refer you to the statement of the IAEA, Mr. Grossi.
Yes.
You know what he said? He said there was Iran, the way it looked the day before the attack, and what their nuclear program looks like now. 2 very different things. They are way behind where they were just 7 days ago. Now, anything in the world can be rebuilt, but now we know where it is. And if they try to rebuild it, we'll have options there as well. But all this leaker stuff, these leakers are professional stabbers. That's what they are. They go out and they read this stuff, and then they tell you what it says against the law, but they characterize it for you in a way that's absolutely false. There's no way Iran comes to the table if somehow nothing had happened. This was complete and total obliteration. They're in bad shape. They are way behind today compared to where they were just 7 days ago because of what the president did.
Marco, can I just alert you to one other aspect? So the great thing is you took out the nuclear capability of Iran. This was crucial. You did it in a way which is extremely impressive. But the signal...
Just to clarify, because someone just asked, as you can see on the screen, it says yesterday NATO summit. This is from President Trump, one of his appearances at the NATO summit yesterday, but I'm playing it because we didn't cover it live, and he talks about a bunch of the Iran stuff as you're hearing, and it's quite interesting. And I believe coming up is when he gets even more upset and critical of the press, coming up in the coming video right here. So I'm going to press play again.
Sense to the rest of the world that this president, when it comes to it, yes, he is a man of peace, but if necessary, he is willing to use strength, the enormous strength of the American military. So I think that signal to the rest of the world, this is far beyond Iran, is extremely important. So let me also point us to that aspect of what happens.
They went down, Iran went down to the site afterwards. They said it's so devastated, and they settled when they saw what we did to it. And frankly, if we didn't do that, they would have had a lot of ammunition to keep going. They wouldn't have settled. Somebody brought that up, and 2 Iranians went down to see it, and they called back and they said, this place is gone. So it's just fake news by CNN, which has got no ratings. It's a failed network. Anybody here from CNN, by the way? Because you're a really disgraceful network. MSNBC, I think, is actually worse. But they're all pretty bad. But yours is good, Katie, I'll tell you.
Mr. President,
you know what Marco reminded me that he did such a nice job there? It was 9 years ago I had to debate this guy. He was not easy. I think he even got better. But when you were into your little thing, I said, this is when I had to debate this guy. You think it's easy to debate him? It's not easy.
How long do you think that the Iranian nuclear program has been put back by these strikes? Years or totally obliterated?
I think basically decades, because I don't think they'll ever do it again. I just don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to take their oil, they're going to have some missiles, and they'll have some defense. I think they've had it. I mean, they just went through hell. I think they've had it. The last thing they want to do is enrich. They've been trying to do it. By the way, it's hard to enrich. And, you know, when you look at a site like that, very, very hard to build. Very, very hard, very expensive. They spent trillions of dollars trying to do this thing, and they didn't come up with it. And we're actually getting along with them very well right now. But had we not succeeded with that hit ended the war. That hit ended the war. I don't want to use an example of Hiroshima. I don't want to use an example of Nagasaki. But that was essentially the same thing. That ended that war. This ended that with the war. If we didn't take that out, they'd be fighting right now.
Mr. President?
Yeah.
If the Iranians do rebuild, would the United States...
If they rebuild?
Would the United States strike again? And I have also a question about Russia.
But I'm not going to have to worry about that. It's gone for years. Very tough to rebuild because the whole thing has collapsed. In other words, inside, it's all collapsed. Nobody can get in to see it because it's collapsed. You can't go in to see a room that has, 10 million tons of rock in it. And the tunnels are totally collapsed.
But if they rebuild?
Well, they've already looked at the tunnels. This was an unbelievable hit by genius pilots and genius people in the military, and they're not being given credit for it because we have scum that's in this group, and not all of you are. You have some great reporters, but you have scum. CNN is scum. MSDNC is scum. The New York Times is scum. They're bad people. They're sick. And what they've done is they're trying to make this unbelievable victory into something less. Now, even they admit that it was hit very hard, okay? But it wasn't hit hard. It was hit brutally, and it knocked it out. The original word that I use, I guess it got us in trouble because it's a strong word. It was obliteration. And you'll see that. And it's going to come out. Israel is doing a report on it now, I understand. And I was told that they said it was total obliteration. You know, they have guys that go in there after the hit, and they say it was total obliteration. And you know, I don't want it for me. I want it for the pilots. I want it for the military. They did such a good job. If you were in the Situation Room with me, with the generals and all of the people that did such a good job, and then they get demeaned by these idiots at CNN who can't get ratings. The place is dying. Nobody wants to even waste their time going on their shows. So they form with the New York Times, who's dying also. Without Trump, you wouldn't have a New York Times.
And then just changing gears to your meeting with Zelensky later today, can you give us any preview of what the two of you might be discussing?
No, well, we'll discuss the obvious. We'll discuss his difficulty. He's got a little difficulty. Zelensky, he's a nice guy. I mean, I'm going to meet him today. I don't know. I assume we're going to be discussing Ukraine.
Yes.
And it seems like the most likely
subject. Is there any restart talks there or anything that you might do?
Well, we're going to see. I mean, I've spoken to Putin a lot, and he actually was very nice. He volunteered help on, as you know, on Iran. I said, no, I don't need help on Iran. I need help on Russia. Okay? I said, do me a favor. Help us on Russia, not on Iran. But he was very nice. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk. I think progress is being made. I think great progress is being made on Gaza. I think because of this attack that we made, I think we're going to have some very good news. I was talking to Steve Witkoff, who, by the way, is terrific, and who knows more about this subject than anybody, the subject of what we were just talking about. He was on last night with Jesse and with Laura and with Sean. And boy, Susie, he has a great take on it. He just explains it so easily. He's really very knowledgeable. But he did tell me that Gaza is very close.
Mr. President, one follow-up on Iran. Both you and Secretary Rubio and Hegsteth mentioned the leak. But can you clarify, is the intelligence correct or is the intelligence wrong?
Well, the intelligence was very inconclusive. Okay. The intelligence says we don't know. It could have been very severe. That's what the intelligence says. So I guess that's correct. But I think we can take the we don't know. It was very severe. It was obliteration. And you'd think that a media outlet would say, isn't that a great thing? I mean, more importantly for the pilots, for the military, you take their guts out. You take their absolute guts out. They had a tremendous attack. There was a complete obliteration. The other team, the other group, Iran, said, let's stop this. And you know what? Israel said it too. Very smart. They fought like hell, and then they said, let's stop. And they're going to build themselves. And I really see it as sticking. I mean, we may do papers on it, Marco. Maybe we're going to do papers. I don't even know if you need them. They're not going to be fighting each other. They've had it. They've had a big fight, like two kids in a schoolyard. You know, they fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2-3 minutes. Then it's easy to stop them.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language to
you have to use strong language. Every once in a while, you have to use a certain word.
I think we have to join the others.
Yes, we're going to join some other group. Yes, thank you, Katie. One
last question. Do you believe?
She's so good.
Thank you, Mr. President.
She used to be very difficult, but now she's. Go ahead.
Do you believe that this strike on the Iranian nuclear program will lead to the release of the hostages in Gaza?
I think that it helped a little bit. It showed a lot of power. Yeah, I think it helped. But we're going to get separately, even before this, we were very close to making a deal on Gaza. I think this helped, yes. Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All right, so that was his appearance at NATO. That was from yesterday. He talked a lot about his thoughts about what the damage was like in Iran. And he had some words about certain media outlets, some pretty strong words. So I wanted you guys to be able to see that. President Trump posted about the news conference. Let me show you what President Trump said about the news conference on True Social. One of the viewers mentioned he posted on True Social. Now, if you missed it, we showed and we talked about the Pentagon news conference on the damage to Iranian nuclear sites from the U.S. bombing. If you missed it, you can rewind and watch it. But look at what President Trump posted. He said, one of the greatest, most professional, and most confirming news conferences I have ever seen. He said, the fake news should fire everyone involved in this witch hunt and apologize to our great warriors and everyone else. He also said the cars and small trucks at the site were those of concrete workers trying to cover up the top of the shafts. Nothing was taken out of facility. Would take too long, too dangerous, and very heavy and hard to move. That is his response to questions about whether enriched uranium was moved from the site beforehand. So those were two things he posted about it after the news conference. Now, I don't know with moving it, I mean, the so in terms of the size of the enriched uranium, I don't believe the size is that big. So Bloomberg reported about 7 days ago, and they said that that the near bomb grade enriched uranium, the highest enriched uranium, they said the stockpile of Iran of highly enriched uranium could be neatly tucked into as few as 16 small canisters. Again, Bloomberg reported that that amount of the enriched uranium, the highest enriched uranium, could go into 16 small canisters. Now, there may be logistic issues with moving it. I don't know if it if it's like a certain kind of, is there a radiation risk in moving it? Do you have to move it a certain way? I don't know any of that stuff at all. But again, we had talked about that last week. Supposedly it doesn't take up a huge amount of space, physical space. But I can't speak to where any of their enriched uranium is. I have no idea. I've seen a number of experts just say we're not sure at this point where it is. Some of it could be at different sites. They could have moved it to different sites or maybe not. I don't know. And then is there an IAEA update today? Irish Sweetness thinks nobody knows. I don't know that there's a new update on Iran developments from them for today. Let's see. Why is there not? Oh, sorry. I am not seeing an IAEA update that was put out today after the one a couple days ago, like on their site. So, I was wondering if there was a new one. Okay, let me read a few more comments from you guys. Hey, by the way, a couple more thank yous here to Mitchell Pilot. Thank you so much, Mitchell Pilot. I really appreciate that. Thanks for your support. Also, Sherry and Sober Dragon and CIA Contact and Brenda Mather, Dennis Kennedy for the gift memberships. PZ Papa Zulu thinks satellites were monitoring Fordow 24/7 for sure. I don't know though. I don't know even if they had eyes on any of these places, if you can definitely tell when this stuff is being moved. I mean, if it's in small canisters, I don't know if they can tell that. I genuinely don't know. It's a good question. Thanks, the Car Czar. The Kardar says, I think the media should leave it to the experts, not so-called mysterious leaks. Thanks, the Karzar. Also, Too Tall, Spin City DJs. Thank you. Donna Smith, thank you. And Molly Morgan. She thought the amount of planning, the years of planning that went into all this, it was big news to me, she said. In terms of developing the weapon, I think they talked about. Thanks, Molly Morgan. Cindy J. Fedora, thanks for the gift memberships. And also, sorry, a couple more thank yous here. I got behind. I think I thanked Nathan Freeman before. And also Tech Slug. Tech Slug says, remember the lesson from the news conference. I mean, one thing said during the news conference was early intelligence cannot be trusted. Anyone making an announcement immediately is speaking from ignorance. Yeah, maybe the assessments will change over time. Look, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff was saying that assessments were ongoing. At some points in the press conference, Pete Hegseth suggested that assessment was still ongoing. Let's see here. Laura C. said the media reported on a leaked report. They didn't write the report. Now, I saw an interesting post. Now, I didn't hear this. I didn't hear this myself. Jason Brodsky, who's, where is it here? Oh, maybe I have a better source. Well, I'm not saying he's a bad source, but I might have like a little more detailed source. Where is it? Okay, yeah, I have an article from it's Turkey. I think it's Turkish state news, Anadolu Agency, but they had a quote from the IAEA director who reportedly said that the centrifuges at Fordow were no longer operational. So he thinks, it sounds like he thinks the centrifuges at Fordow were destroyed. But I didn't hear the whole interview, so. And just again, keep in mind, one important question, we don't know if Iran has other facilities, secret facilities, alternate facilities, besides the ones that were destroyed in these attacks by the U.S. and Israel. And also, do they have spare centrifuges they can use, sing around somewhere? I don't know. So the focus the last couple days has been on how much damage was done at Fordow. But that's just one site. It's an important site, but there are other sites that were damaged. And also there might be other sites besides that. So I know it can be hard to keep track of what question we're working on and we're thinking about. But the question of how much damage at Fordow there is a different question than how much was their whole program set back. And to have that answer, you need to know things like, well, do they still have the enriched uranium? Do they have access to other centrifuges? Do they have secret sites that could replace some of the sites that got destroyed or damaged? Or you at least have to make assumptions about that. So it can just keep an eye when you're following the story and on what question, one specific question is being discussed because it can get confusing. All right, we'll take a few more comments here. Bob the Bomb thinks it's difficult to keep centrifuge site secret. That's what Bob the Bomb thinks. Daniel Hunt thinks there's nothing wrong with questioning it. And in case you missed it, I don't want to get into this too much, but the Supreme Leader did speak today for the first time in a while. The Supreme Leader of Iran. There's a photo from Reuters. We watched a little of his appearance before, but he appeared on, I believe it was on state TV. He had a televised, pre-recorded message. This was the first time in more than a week that he had made comments. Reuters says, as in his last comments, released more than a week ago, he spoke from an undisclosed indoor location in front of a brown curtain between an Iranian flag and a portrait of his predecessor, Ayatollah Khamenei. He said Iran would not surrender. We read some of the key things he said earlier. He claimed victory. He said the U.S. attacked our nuclear facilities but couldn't do any important deed. He said the U.S. president did abnormal showmanship and needed to do so. Anyways, so just letting you know if you haven't heard. You might have heard, nobody had heard from him for several days, but he has now made an appearance. One of our viewers said, why does he need a curtain if he's underground? Well, maybe they were just trying to conceal where he is. I mean, there's been reporting saying that he is in a bunker and they're worried about his safety. So it's very possible they're trying to just film him in a way that doesn't reveal where he is. Now, I'm sure, I don't know if Israel and the U.S. know where he is. If they don't know where he is, I'm sure they look at this and like, you might think, well, you can't tell anything from these videos. My understanding is that there's people who specialize in this stuff who they can take a video like this and sometimes they can find clues in it that you would normally think, oh, you can't tell anything, but they can. So my point is, if it's not known where he is, even if it is known, I'm sure that this video will be very scrutinized by U.S. and Israeli intelligence. It's Nitso said Trump already said he knows where he's hiding. He did say that. Again, I don't know that that's true. So he did say it. Miss Alabama says even by sound. Interesting point. Yeah, analyzing the sound. Exactly. Or the lighting. Okay. I think... Let me just check a couple more things here. Oh, so people sent me some more comments. Let me just take a few more comments too. Sorry, I've been trying to read a bunch of your comments on the air during the broadcast. Moose's Backyard, our viewer, thinks press conferences are political tools for our pseudo-democracies. They are just narratives. Moose's Backyard thinks if the mission were a failure, they wouldn't say. Our viewer says, what outlet is the reporter Katie from that the Trump was referring to in the NATO video? I do not know which reporter that is. I have no idea. I don't know who she is or who the reporter is or what outlet she's with. Maybe somebody in the chat knows. Warden Gamer says they could look for the reflections in the Supreme Leader's eyes in analyzing the video. Let's see. And then Nathaniel Lee sent me an article from FT, and the headline says, early intelligence suggests Iran's uranium largely intact, European officials say. So that's a new story coming out in the Financial Times. I know this question is being debated. I don't know what the story is, but thank you, Nathaniel Lee, for sending that in. Vesper Martini thinks that the U.S. intel agency must have baited whoever decided to leak the report about the attack on Fordow. A-Rod 5005 thought Pete Hegseth's opening remarks today sounded like an evangelist. PV, our viewer, says, I've noticed since the bombing that the Trump administration is really pushing a warrior mentality with the military and seem to be pushing a military versus news agenda. Just reading a few more of these comments some viewers have sent in. I like to read some of them. Richard Williams wrote in and said, why would you build a main vent shaft that was vertically down to the facility? Wouldn't it be more logical to angle them all upwards to protect the main asset? So, now I don't know that it was vertical. So, again, it seemed like from the press conference they were saying the main vent shaft is vertical. This is way beyond any kind of expertise I have. I'm guessing there are reasons they built things the way they did. What those reasons are, I don't know. Maybe there's cost, or maybe they really thought it was better for them for some way. So, interesting question on the vent shafts. Unfortunately, Richard Williams, I am no help to you. Thanks, Richard, for writing in. Karen Moore, our viewer, says she doesn't like in the press conference when they spend a bunch of time praising Trump. She just wants the facts about what happened. That's what Karen Moore, our viewer, said. James Pfeiffer, our viewer, thinks China and Russia will supply weapons to Iran, weapons of mass destruction, so they can make Trump look bad. That's what our viewer James said. Kenro points out that Jen Griffin and Pete Hegseth both used to be at Fox News, which is an interesting thing to remember. Thanks, Kenro. Yeah, we replayed. There was a testy exchange between Fox News' Jennifer Griffin and Pete Hegseth. You can go back and rewind and watch it. David Mackey thinks this all could have been avoided if President Trump had just said, we have hit Fordow and we'll know in the coming weeks all the damage that was done. David L. thinks that if you had 3 bunker busters dropped in the vent shaft, those bombs would have produced such a shockwave to take out the entire facility, imploding it. That's what David L. thinks. Thanks, David L., for writing it. Okay. Guys, I think maybe we might be getting close on this stream. I think we might have done what we came here to do. Let me just show you something real quick here. We've been talking about this press briefing, AP's assessment of the press briefing is Hegsteth praises U.S. attack on Iran but offers few details on the strike's impact. Pete Hegseth and Dan Caine held a Thursday morning news conference to respond to an early leaked intelligence report suggesting U.S. strikes against Iran likely put the country back mere months. Now, we don't know for sure what the intelligence report's seen because we haven't seen it, but supposedly it raised that possibility. President Trump has insisted the strikes delivered a devastating attack and said questioning of his assessment was not only unpatriotic, but also makes the pilots who dropped the bombs very upset. Drawing reliable conclusions about the impact of the U.S. strikes is difficult only days after they took place. Hegsteth's media criticism included Fox News, where he had been an anchor. He criticized his former Fox News colleague, Jennifer Griffin, as about the worst, the one who represents the most intentionally what the president says. I don't want to get into all that right now. We were replaying. I don't want to get all into the details of this because we already played the press conference and we talked about it, and you can go back and rewind it. One thing I want to mention, which some of you might have noticed, there was an interesting point when we showed you President Trump at the NATO summit yesterday, and he did at one point compare the bombing of the bombing of the Iranian nuclear sites by the U.S. He compared it to Hiroshima or Nagasaki because it ended the war. Now, I hadn't seen this news item. AP reports Trump comparison of Iran strikes to atomic bombing of Hiroshima, Nagasaki stirs anger in Japan. A survivor from Nagasaki said, "It's scary that a president with such a view is serving as a leader." Nagasaki Mayor Shiro Suzuki said the use of atomic weapons should never be tolerated for any purpose. Anyways, you can see it says Trump said the U.S. attack on Iranian nuclear facilities helped end the recent war, like the dropping of atomic bombs on Japan brought World War II to a close. The Hiroshima City Council was upset about it too. Anyways, I don't want to get all into this now. It was an interesting moment in his in what he said. But I think, guys, we came on the air to cover the press briefing, press conference. We covered the press conference. We watched it. We replayed a bit of it. We talked about it. I think we have done on this stream what we came to do. Maybe we'll cover other news today. But I think it's time for this stream to start wrapping it up. I really appreciate you guys. And we read a bunch of your comments, which I enjoy doing. So I really appreciate you joining me for this stream. If there's big news today, we'll come back on the air and cover it. I might be taking a nap at some point today because this was early. This is earlier than usual. I'm on such a late schedule. Well, I often am on a late schedule, but often the news has me on a late schedule. We had a lot of late nights, U.S. time, covering the Israel-Iran conflict. So my schedule was not really compatible with this today, but we got up and we did it. Again, I will be on the lookout today for more news, and we very well might have more news coverage for you live today. Certainly, if there's big news, we'll come on the air and cover it. So I really appreciate you guys being here for this stream. If you missed it, you can rewind and watch the press conference. If you missed it, you can rewind and watch President Trump's remarks. Some of those remarks from the NATO summit yesterday. I didn't play his press conference, but I played a bunch of his critical remarks about the media, if you haven't seen that. But we will keep you up to date on this story and other stories as well. So I really appreciate you watching. If you want, subscribe and follow the channel, Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news here without agenda. Agenda Free TV. And turn the notifications on. I can't tell you in advance when big news is going to happen, but we have a notification system that we have created that works really well. You sign up once, you get sent a notification every time we go live. It's great. The mods will put the link in the chat, but it's the Discord notifications. So sign up for the Discord notifications. They work awesome, and that'll keep you informed when we're going live. And I will post updates about the news as I usually do during the day and night on my X account, which is at Lookner on X, at Lookner. You can follow me over there for breaking news. But again, I appreciate you joining. Glad we got to take some comments today. Sorry if we didn't get to your comment, but we'll have more coverage. Hey, I want to shout out our moderators for being here. They're awesome. They're the ones who keep things under control in the chat and keep it respectful there. I know it can get a little heated sometimes, but our mods are making sure that it's respectful there and under control. So huge thanks to our moderators over there on YouTube, people like Janet B., Ruth Krafasi, BZ, Carms. Thank you so much for moderating over there. Also on Twitch, Bastion Girl, Big Ball of Yarn, LB Prairie Dawn, I Got That Fire, Mark HNC, Sarah and Surly Dev, thank you. And all of our other Twitch mods as well. Facebook mods, Kay Lowry Body was moderating over there. Thank you so much, Kay. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And Linda Bell, Clary, Misha moderate for us on X. Thanks so much to all of our moderators. And shout out to everybody who donated to the channel. Thank you so much. That is how this channel, I hope I got everybody. Let me make sure. That is how this channel can stay on the air, and that's what allows me to buy footage, news footage and all that. So, so huge thanks to you guys. If you ever want to donate, you can go to agendafree.tv, but thanks so much for supporting the channel. And Mitchell Pilot, thanks for your support. Shaft, thanks for the gift memberships. Matthew Felty says, thank you for your attention to this matter. Thank you, Matthew, for your support. Bruce Kaiser says, when the enemy declares victory from a hidden location, yes, the war is over. That's from Bruce Kaiser. Thanks, Bruce, for your support. Thanks, Mouse from Canada, for your support. Mouse thinks if it's destroyed, there's no reason for Israel to keep attacking. Bring the fighting to an end. Thank you, Mouse. Thank you also, Donna Smith, who thinks that we won't be getting new IAEA reports in the future unless this changes because Iran is blocking them from entering. Well, they have been giving some reports out during the conflict based on something or other. Maybe it's based on other information they have. But they have been coming out with new ones even though they haven't been there during the conflict. So we still might get some new reports from them. But yes, at this point, I don't believe any IAEA inspectors are in Iran. And I think there was some vote taken about IAEA inspectors in Iran yesterday, but I'm not aware that that's like this hard and fast thing. If I can pull it up here, I can't even find it, but I thought I read about some vote taken in Iran. Oh, yeah, so there was a vote taken by Iranian lawmakers to suspend cooperation with the IAEA. Now that could change, but I don't think the IAEA inspectors were there during the conflict anyway. That's my understanding. Anyways, thank you so much, and thanks Sherry for your support, and also Fish Like It's 1999. Thanks for your support on Twitch. Thanks so much. Hey, another good way to find out when we're going live is to follow us on X at Agenda Free TV. I always post on X at Agenda Free TV before we go live. So, and I post updates about the channel, so you can follow us over there if you want. And hey, we do have a chat where you can chat with other viewers when we're not live. A lot of our viewers like doing the Discord chat. It's free. It's the same link as the free notifications. So if you want, check out our Discord free chat. And huge thanks to our Discord mods for all you do as well. Really appreciate it. Hey, for those of you who watch on YouTube also, I would suggest turning on the YouTube notifications. That's another good way to find out when we're live. But it's a little strange how you have to turn on the it's a little counterintuitive maybe to figure out how to turn on the YouTube notifications. So if you want to get the YouTube notifications, you got to subscribe to the channel. Then you click this bell here, and then you choose all notifications. So if you are subscribed, also make sure you have the bell clicked and you've chosen all, so you get the notifications over there on YouTube. Shout out to our Facebook subscribers like Shannon Davis Hughes and Lou Knight and Sharon Klassen Goslin. Thanks for and Christy Claft. Thanks for subscribing and supporting the channel over there. I should have thanked you earlier, but next time. But I'm thanking you now. Susan Priest Buchner and all of our other subscribers over there on Facebook. Did I thank Christy Claft? Oh, somebody gave stars. I missed some Facebook stars. Who gave me stars? Where is it here? I just went by. Chuck Mosca is a subscriber, by the way, also on Facebook. Where are the stars? Someone gave stars, and I just zoomed by it, and I can't find it. Oh, no. What a disaster. Trying to thank the person. Where is it? Who are you? It just flew by. Well, this is... Oh, there it is. Lou Knight gave stars. Hey, thanks, Lou. That's really nice of you. Thanks also to thanks to all of our other Facebook subscribers. Thanks to our Twitch subscribers like Jazzy Renee and Gina Pina, Artful Nothing, Coffee and Bacon Guy. Thank you. And Crazy Like Fox News, Wall Street and Shaggy. Thanks for subscribing. Matthew Kohai 3. And Dial G Warren. Thank you. Douthis, thanks for subscribing. And hey, our viewer Gino Vanelli is on a watch streak. Thanks for watching. Sarah, thanks for subscribing. And all of our other subscribers over there on Twitch. Really appreciate it. And also, oh, thanks Psychedelic Duck for subscribing as well. Thank you and for your note. And our YouTube members. Hey, shout out to our YouTube members for supporting the channel, like Evelyn in Maine, Jesse's Girl. Oh, and thanks everybody who's been writing in with news tips and sending me links and comments. Thanks for that as well. Thanks to our YouTube members, Kurt W9BBW, CAC813, Evelyn in Maine, Maya Moon Goddess, JK Cinar, Confidence in God, Noksu Cow, Irish Sweetness, Maritime Nick, Confidence in God, Gary Pates, Pickens, Jesse's Girl, and Gen X, Lachlan Cosgrove, Fedora. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so we're starting to wrap this up. But again, I really appreciate everybody getting up early. Thanks for all those who got up early to watch the broadcast. Okay. Hang on a moment here. All right, I'm keeping an eye on the news, and I will be watching the news today. And if I'm taking a nap and something big happens, maybe somebody will call me and wake me up. That very well might happen. But I'll be up most of the day, and I'll be keeping an eye on things. All right, guys, that is it. Oh, Mouse, thanks for being a member. Hey, Hadley Rodriguez, John, Gen Xer, thank you. And everybody else watching out there, thank you. All right, we're wrapping it up. We're wrapping it up right now. Oh, a couple more little shout outs while I have the chance. Stephen Orr, Paula Thompson, thanks. Kerry McGurran says, let's pray for a calm news day. Get out and enjoy some sunshine. Thanks. Michelle Batten, thanks for watching. Lori Nance, Billy Anderson, and everybody else. That is it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you missed the press conference, go back and rewind and watch it. That's it. You've been watching our live coverage of the Pentagon press conference, and we will see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.